Hey everybody, and welcome back to Ready Steady Play, where Chris and I are here, intrepid reporters on location on Kickstarter.com to report on the latest Kickstarter news. I'm just gonna check my audio. Do let me know if there's any problems with the audio, because obviously that is a thing that I have to keep an eye on. Without any audio, you won't get the important news that's important to you about what's live, what's been going on, what's coming up. We're going to talk about a bunch of projects, and then what we're going to do is we're actually going to go briefly over the projects we looked at last time and talk about whether or not we backed any of them. We'll do that real quick, and then Yogi Bear says my wallet is writhing with impending trauma. Yes. That is actually the direct opposite of the purpose of this stream. We're here to prevent you from traumatizing your wallet with the wrong purchases. So with that in mind, let's bring in Chris. I think this should. Ooh, I've mislabeled my buttons, and I don't know which one brings Chris in. I think it's this one. Nope, that's from something a long time ago. There's chat now. There's Chris. That's only Chris. Here we go. Hey Chris, how you doing?
I'm good. I'll give you a headshot. You need to put a little photo of my face into my button. This is the Chris button.
I've got.
Then you can make me go away if I become annoying. You can just no more Chris. Goodbye.
What I've got is too many different kinds of shows going on here. Too many different profiles. What I need is to fix my streaming software and maybe fix those audio issues too.
Yes, indeed. But hello everybody. Welcome back.
Hello everybody in the chat, and thanks for joining us.
Peter, Maury, and Yogi Bear. Hello all.
Hello. So
I think just briefly on what Yogi said. I think next month is going to be the month where your wallet's going to be crying.
Oh my god!
That's
we got a list here of reasons why we're probably going to have to do another one of these sooner than a month. Yeah, in 2 days. But we'll get to that at the end. That's if we're doing Kickstarter past, present, and future. This is the past section first, where we talk about last month. And then we're going to do present, which is live right now. And then we're gonna do future, which is a big list, or it's a serious list.
So we get straight into the previously on Kickstarter commentary.
Previously on Massive Darkness 2. Oh my God! Look, late pledge. Apparent. There's a button. I don't know whether it works or not. Chris, did you back this one? Because I think you said we weren't.
I did not. I think I said at the time I wasn't going to back it. I did a bit more research into it. I didn't find anything that really particularly pulled me away from. I mean, I'm going a lot on what you said, right? Your criticism of it back in the first edition was kind of sufficient to scare me off of it, and it was super expensive, and it wasn't a void in my shelf. I have plenty of games that fill its role. It just didn't seem a sensible investment to me. Kickstarter commentary worked.
Yes, good. I did not back it either, and I don't have any interest in doing so either. How about this one?
I'm just checking to see if the late pledge button works for people's information. The late pledge button does not work yet, but it will work later. So if you really want to back it, you still can at some point.
If you're feeling FOMO, is that the one?
FOMO, that's the one.
I just noticed in the show notes you haven't logged into Google, so it's calling you Anonymous Moose.
What?
Well, Google Documents does this thing where it assigns you a random animal, a random anonymous animal, if you don't log into your Google account.
Nice.
So we got Lizard Wizard. Chris, you seemed quite keen on this. Did you back it?
No. Just, you know what? Whilst vocalizing my my impressions of it last time, I just kind of realized, I'm not going to get this to the table, and I'm getting better. I've actually it's funny. We've started doing this commentary kind of at a good point in my Kickstarter career, where I've finally gotten a little bit better at not backing things purely out of FOMO. And I realized I ultimately didn't actually want this game, so I didn't back it.
Fair enough. Well, I went away and I looked at the rulebook for Raccoon Tycoon to see what I thought of their previous iteration, and I didn't find anything in there that was particularly inspiring to me, so I kind of just let this one pass over my head.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't find a rulebook for this one either, which was sort of a little like...
No.
I mean, they always do these things here. I'm literally pointing at my screen like you guys can see me. These how to play sort of sections where they sort of give you an overview of how it works. And they're helpful, but I do like to scan the rule book as well. I like to see how robust it looks.
I think there was a section, a text section which explained the rules in a bit more detail. So I seem to remember reading something about the rules of it. That was more detailed than that GIF. Maybe I'm wrong. But I agree there was nothing particularly inspired about it. Oh, maybe I watched a video. I think I watched Rado's video. That's what I did.
Well, he is the master of selling people on games, so if he didn't persuade you, then clearly something's missing. But it might just be that, without getting back into it too much, I still, even just looking at this Kickstarter page, find the artwork and reagents and the concept of doing magic incredibly pleasing. So
yeah, the artwork's very nice.
I mean, I think that if you are sold on this sort of magical animal universe, you'll probably get a lot of enjoyment out of this. But for me, it just felt like there's a bit of a disconnect as well between the price and the complexity. Mm-hmm. You know, like I thought there's All right, moving on.
That's fair. Moving on.
Right. You can also join the waiting room. There's another link there. That's the thing about Kickstarters these days. You don't even have to get into it while they're open, you know?
No.
Although it's better to, obviously, if you want to get involved in a game, getting involved at this stage helps to unlock the extra production stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, Sniper Elite, did you back it in the end?
So, Sniper Elite, I forgot about, which is disappointing in a way because I had absolutely no intention of backing it whatsoever. I read the rulebook for this one before our last commentary, and talked you through it a little bit. And again, while vocalizing the rules and explaining them to you, it made me actually more interested in it. And I think I even said, "Oh, now I kind of might want this. I'm gonna." My intention was not to back it. And by the time we finished the video, I actually was thinking, "Oh, I might actually back this." And then I forgot it existed. And I obviously hadn't clicked the remind me button on this one, so this one passed me by. But I'm not super disappointed. It didn't have me enthralled to the point that I'm going to suffer from FOMO. But whoops, as Egger says. But yeah, I'm okay with it. It's fine. Did you back it? Because you were quite intrigued, I think.
Yeah,
weren't you?
Was intrigued, and I had to. For reasons I'll get into in just a minute, or towards the end of this rundown, I had to be very, very strict about what I backed last month, and so this got bumped off the list, I'm afraid.
Yeah, and as Yogi Bear says, it'll go to retail, and that's the other reason I'm not so super worried about it. I think that they just had a couple of Kickstarter exclusive miniatures and stuff, like the testicle shot man.
Yeah.
So I'd be this is the sort of, and it's not one of those games where I'm like, oh my god, I want to play it day one. I'm going to feel like I'm missing out if other people are playing it and I'm not playing it. So if it's really good, it'll go to retail. It's fine.
Well, we say that. I'm trying to think of a game where that has been really good that hasn't gone to retail. Or has gone to retail. Sort of.
Nemesis?
Nemesis was sort of at retail.
Sort of, yeah.
I mean, technically at retail, but not available anywhere somehow.
Seventh Continent only recently went to retail, and it was only direct from the publisher, and it was only a basic version of the game.
Yeah,
so
they specifically made a Seventh Continent like what they called like the core box or something,
Yeah.
where it was just where it was just a very stripped down version, even of the core box from the campaign. But there was no intention for that to go to retail. It
Yeah,
just
yeah, no.
wound
Yeah,
up
they said
happening
that from the
because
start.
it was very popular. Having said that, I have all of Seventh Continent, and I'm not sure you need more than what's in that stripped down brown box.
I don't think so. We've done all the curses, I think. Or maybe we're missing one. We've either done all or all but one of the basic curses. And we have all the expansions. We're going to go to them eventually. I finally put it all together into one box and replaced my cards.
Mhm.
Yeah, Haggis, Awakening the Realms have apparently been going to retail with Nemesis for like the last 2 years. We'll see.
Well, they arranged a distribution deal with Rebel Games, a Polish company, to do retail on that, and then they had to negotiate distribute. Then they had to negotiate rights to put the core box in the
Back on
campaign for
Kickstarter.
Lockdown. Yeah,
Yeah,
which is
that was
really
very
quite
funny.
funny. Rise of
I'm
Moloch, I've heard of. That's a Simon game, isn't it?
I'm a little disappointed in a way. I suppose that neither of us backed this in the end. Actually, maybe we should have communicated more, and one of us should have gotten this. But
Well,
it's fine. We'll get it
if
retail.
you're listening, Rebellion Unplugged, feel free to send us a review copy, and we will absolutely play it.
It is very true.
Okie
What
dokie.
is next?
Next, we've got one that I'm pretty sure you backed. Bam!
I'd already backed this before the video started. That's
And I'm
I
pretty
actually
sure
already did
I
my
backed
pledge
it
manager
during
yesterday.
the video.
I did my pledge manager only yesterday for it because I'd forgotten about it. $18 for shipping. A little bit much for the size of the box, but it's fine. I'm just very excited to play it and to get it in my hands. Yeah, this was we kind of talked about this at the time as a no-brainer because you're getting 3 games for what it was, $54, something like that, $60 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So even with the shipping cost, it's still good value. If you like social deduction party games, it was an easy choice. Late pledge I see there is available.
Yeah, that pledge is still available. So if you missed out on Quest, which is another Avalon game in the world of Avalon, the Resistance Avalon, you can still acquire it. And probably also Coup. There's a version of this where you get a new re-themed. I say re-themed, loosely.
It's new artwork.
New artwork version of Coup.
It'll definitely go to retail as well, Quest. But there are some Kickstarter exclusives. You got like Lancelot and stuff, which characters which are Kickstarter exclusive. So it's definitely worth backing Kickstarter if you're a big fan of the series.
This is 100% true.
Would I lie to you?
So then we've got something that neither of us had any intention of backing. I'm pretty sure we can move on very quickly from this one.
I backed it. No, I didn't. Of course, I didn't.
It was the Western Legends expansion, Blood Money.
Yeah. Yeah, we talked last time about how we play it on the channel. We had fun with it, but we just didn't see it having enough legs for us to keep going with, due to certain problems that we perceive. So we didn't back it as we said we wouldn't.
I did not back it either. So there you go. True to our words, we did not back that one. And how about this one? Ultimate Werewolf Extreme.
Yeah, so despite saying I wasn't going to back it, this was one I actually really did. There's a part of me that really wants to own an ultimate version of Werewolf, so to speak. But like I said, I've gotten better, and I realized that I'm never going to actually play this game. The only times I'm going to have the opportunity to, there'll be another 7 people with a copy of it at a convention, and it just seems pointless. Unless you're that person who brings it out at the convention, or unless you're just an enormous fan. So I did not back it, even though a part of me wanted to.
I did not back it either. Yeah, again, I actually have a copy of Werewolf, which I've probably played about as often as you would expect to play Werewolf, and that's fine for me. I've got other party games, and I'd probably get out the Resistance Avalon. I've got Secret Hitler, which I quite enjoy. I've got what have we been playing recently that we really liked? Wavelength. That's a lot of fun.
Oh, I played that for the first time actually quite recently. Yeah, I really enjoyed that.
We've been playing quite a lot of Wavelength, even though some people find it. I was playing with one of my mother's friends recently, and she was trying to come up with clues, and she really wasn't doing a good job. And she just said, "Oh, this is quite difficult, isn't it? It's quite difficult to come up with the clues." She's not played any modern games or probably any games like this at all in her life. So,
I think I had one which I can't remember what the scale was. It was very near the end. It was like it was like very It was like very satisfying, not at all satisfying. And it was like just before the extreme of very satisfying. And the clue I gave was getting. You could have 5 words. I was like, going to bed, bed when pretty damn tired, as opposed to extremely tired. And it worked.
God damn it!
You got it.
Internet. I'm trying to show people a picture of Wavelength, and it's asking me to take. Except anyway, it's a dial like this, and you have to give people clues on a scale. Because I realized it probably seemed very abstract talking about this without context. So there you go. Anyway,
Dark Mind has no interest in social deduction games. It sounds like
enough.
They're my favorite type of game, I think, probably.
So we got Token Sesame.
I mean, we called this out for being stupidly overpriced, and I stand by it, and I wouldn't give them my money. So I didn't.
And hey, it costs what it costs, and if you like it, then that's on you. That's your call. But yeah, I also did not. I thought I'd rather have another game.
Exactly. Things have the value which you put upon them, and I did not agree with their value. Yeah,
Exactly.
As Chris says, this was too expensive. Next.
It also looked like faff to set up.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you have your IKEA things. I have my Goo ramekins.
Oh,
Good.
I'm falling into that I've spelt Glenmore wrong again issue.
Oh, really?
Remember I've spelt it wrong in the show notes? Oh, it's because there's a 2 in it. Is that right? Yeah, there we go. Highland Games. This was the expansion to Glenmore 2, which was a game that came out. You and I kind of touched on it briefly and then said we didn't really know anything about it.
Yeah, and I wasn't really inspired enough to find out much more about it, so I didn't.
I backed this at the €1 level to gain access to the Pledge Manager. I would like to do more research on it because I've seen enough about it that intrigues me, but I really want to do some research before I go all in on this, and I still haven't had the chance. So, unfortunately, no, I say before I commit more to it. So, I'm hoping, to do a bit more. So I've got the Pledge Manager for that. So I bought myself a bit more time for €1.
And I imagine everyone watching knows this, but if you didn't, there you go. That's a pro tip. For the price of $1/euro, or whatever the currency of the game is, you can buy yourself more time to consider backing.
There's a lot of big board game names who got involved in this campaign, designing bits and pieces for it. So I am intrigued, and I want to find out more, but not had the chance yet. Right.
Play it more. I haven't played Glenmore since first edition. I don't know if I want to play more. Well, that's probably that vindicates me that I didn't back it then. Thank you, Darkmind. Buy yourself time to win Lotto.
Exactly. That's just 3 months and I'll win the Lotto.
Michael plays Lotto religiously, so one day.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, yes, you were saying.
Endangered new species. What's going on? Did you back it?
No, I didn't. I don't know. It just didn't do anything for me particularly. I did look into this one further because I do really like the theme of saving endangered wildlife. But nope, just for whatever reason, looked a bit too generic to me, and I did not back it.
I'm afraid this one was pretty much a victim of a very busy schedule. I didn't get to look into it any further, and as a result, it just kind of passed me by. And I'll talk a bit about something that passed me by later on as well, and why that might not be. Sometimes you just miss out on cool stuff. But that's why we are here, because we're trying to help, doing the best we can. But I'm I missed out.
Well,
on this one too.
we'll have an example later on of something that passed me by that I now have the opportunity to get back in on. It definitely happens.
All right, Northgard, Uncharted Lands. I feel like you knew nothing about this, and then I talked about it a bit, and it piqued your interest.
It did, and this is the one I probably did the most research into following you piquing my interest. I watched. I've forgotten his name. He does really good videos, so I should probably remember it. He does solo playthroughs. But he's somewhere embedded in that. If you can find him, I'll recognize it when I see it.
It's not Adam Smith, is it? Who does rolling?
No,
solo?
no.
John Gets Games.
John Gets Games. I watched his entire video on it. I find his stuff pretty helpful sometimes. Yeah, I thought it looked good, but I just not enough to back it. Yeah, I just decided against it. Although one thing I would say is when I made the decision not to back it, I had forgotten it had the cheap version. The non-miniatures version, I think it has, doesn't it, or something like that?
Yeah, I think it's got a version with standees instead of minis.
Yeah. However, having said that, because of my personality type, I would never back at the standee level anyway. I would always feel I'd missed out on something. Do you know what I mean? So it's probably I was kind of.
Oh no, that's the opposite of the effect it's supposed to have. You're supposed to be like, oh, finally a version that I can get this game without having to pay all that money for these plastic minis I don't care about.
It probably works for sensible people, just not for me. The $70 they lost from me for having, maybe they probably gained a lot more from other people for having that pledge level.
Well, it's got over 8,000 backers, which is hugely popular. I did back it. I backed this one at the €70 level, so I got it with the minis and the expansion.
See, because you would have felt you were missing out, wouldn't you?
No, I just felt like, what is this thing in my face? Mosquito? Get out of here. I feel like I felt like the €20 jump for the extra bits and pieces wasn't outrageous for me.
No, it wasn't outrageous. I just didn't want to spend that money on what I'd seen, I guess. It looks to me like a game I would definitely play, and I'll happily play it, but I just didn't feel the need to kickstart it at this point. But I was close. It was a close call on this one. It was a very close call. Dark Mind, you're obviously new to this camera setup that Mike has.
It's just a little algorithm here. I've got a little computer Oh, what am I doing to my face? I've got a little I don't know, filter that follows my face around so I don't go off camera. It's mostly for when I'm playing games and I have to pick up bits and pieces out of a box. Because when I had the camera fixed, I'd try and pick up a piece, and then I'd be over here, down here, grabbing pieces, and people would be like, "Well, what's going on?" So yeah, I wish I had a cameraman. We could do so much cool stuff with a cameraman. But I'd have an editor first, man. All right, and finally, I don't think we got to talk too much about this one last month because it was just outside of our time frame. Oh, I have the link is still.
It was upcoming at the time, and it's come and gone since we did our last video. Despite the fact we did do it was only a month ago, it just happened to fall in between our videos.
Exactly right.
But there's late pledge apparently available. So this is probably the most interesting one in terms of decision-making process. I have Bruges already, and I enjoy Bruges a lot. I don't have the expansion to Bruges, which I quite like to have, but it's really hard to find. It's very expensive.
Bruges, which is Hamburg.
Which is Hamburg, yeah. So I watched a couple of videos on the rules changes. I was like, oh, some of them I'm not so keen on. Some of them I was very keen on. Some of them looked very good. I wasn't massively keen on the artwork and the fact that you now have making building buildings, and then you're like building foundations and then building buildings on the foundations rather than building buildings or houses and then putting people into them. It seems to lose a lot of the character, a lot of the soul that Bruges had. I knew nothing about Amsterdam. I had backed this at $70, the full pledge, so that was $150, I think, $149 maybe. You think you got a $1 discount if I remember correctly. for both of them at collector's edition level, and with an hour to spare, I cancelled my pledge because I came to the conclusion that this campaign is a bit of a rip-off. And I was not happy spending $75 on these collector's editions. And also, again, knowing myself, I was essentially committing to spending another $150 on the next two games in the series to also have the collector's editions of those. So I thought, I'll just wait, and if I so wish, down the line, I can buy the retail version of Hamburg, which will get me the expansion to Bruges, and if I so wish down the line, I can buy the retail version of Amsterdam. It's very unusual. I've spent a lot more money on Kickstarters, spent hundreds and hundreds on, Too Many Bones, King Death Monster, stuff like that. But I just at the last minute, I was like, my God, I do not want $150 to leave my bank account for this. So it was a last minute cancel. I've never done that before.
Then
also, Queen Games are a bit much.
The attended effect. Queen Games have I would say, a mixed reputation. But
not on Kickstarter, they don't.
Yeah.
Well, what about you, Mike?
Yeah, well, I don't have any of the Stefan Feld titles in this collection. I don't have Bruges. I don't have the expansion. I don't have Macau. So I went ahead and I got on board with this one, which is one of the reasons why I didn't back the one we were just talking about.
Because this one's so damn expensive.
Yeah, Sniper Elite and anything else. Yeah, this was very expensive, but I don't have any of those games, and I wanted them, so there you go. It's.
Do you know I'm going to miss most from not having backed it? The nighttime alternative covers. I think they look awesome. That's what I'll miss the most.
The sleeves.
Yeah. They have nighttime sleeves, which look really pretty. Not the one. If you scroll down again, you passed it previously.
Oh, I think I saw them. These ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do look nice. I mean, I'll be interested to see what it looks like when it arrives. Maybe I'll do an unboxing and see if it justifies the high price point. I mean, I think it's one of those things where, $65 for the classic edition, I don't think is outrageous. That's about what you'd expect for a Eurogame, 50 quid,
But you'll get it so much cheaper down the line.
Yeah, that would probably be MSRP, right? So you could probably find it cheaper online once it comes out, depending on how you purchase your games and stuff like that. But there's definitely a sort of a appeal here for the collector's edition, like the hardback book with the dust sleeve.
Yeah, no, definitely.
£99 is $99 is an enormous amount of money for this.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I kept saying $150. It wasn't. It was £150.
It was
pounds for two games. That's
£150. So, that's £75 a game. What you're getting is the deluxe-ified version. I don't think that's particularly outside the realm of what we see for these deluxeified products.
But bear in mind, I already owned Bruges, and I was looking, and I played Bruges not that long ago, and I was like, why the hell would I pay 75 quid to get this again? It just seems mental.
Yeah. And I think also, usually when you invest in these kinds of deluxeified products, you're also investing in... this got me thinking a little bit, actually, because usually when I get involved in these projects, I like to get games that are... I prefer to invest in them if they're particularly big or complex, because I find the deluxeified components help me set it up quicker and more easily and, get the game going. Having said that, if I'm investing in this really nice thing to play, if it's lighter and it's quicker, I'm going to get to play it more often, right? So it's like, it's one of those things, isn't it?
It's true. Chris, yes, we are going to be talking about upcoming Kickstarters. That is actually the main purpose of this video. We're just doing a quick...
We've literally finished our rundown of last month. This was the last one on the list. So now we're going to move swiftly on then to Kickstarter games of present day, currently live on Kickstarter. So let us move on to the first one right
Just to
now.
just to address what Yogi Bear raises a good point. A bunch of PMs, pledge managers opened as well. So he says he was paying for shipping on those last month, and I completely empathise. That was the same case for me that just a month just gone. I was paying for shipping and also for add-ons for things like Nemesis Lockdown, and stuff like that. So yeah, so definitely if you get a couple of pledge managers at the same time, sometimes the shipping, the combined shipping alone, even before add-ons, can be as much, if not more, than a Kickstarter back.
Are you the kind of person that has to do a pledge manager the minute it opens, or you forget about it?
No, I keep like a post-it note on my desktop of the pledge managers I have to do, and I kind of seem to put them off for ages, and eventually I sit down and just clear my backlog of pledge managers.
Yeah, I actually literally have this pledge manager document I created, which I put all the dates into and whether the pledge manager's open and when it's going to charge my card, and it literally tracks games and color codes them based on how long I've got and whether they're resolved. Converts all the currencies into pounds and totals them up. It's nuts.
Heggers, you essentially can do that if you have a lot of self-restraint. If you if you set aside some money every week and then pay it off in one go, but the problem is that requires more self-restraint than I have. So
So let's start with our first game of the current era, which is Streets. This is the second game from Dave Clark and Sinister Fish Games. Their first game was... Oh, it says here they've got 3 created. I wonder if there's 2 for villages. Nope, they also did Great Scott, so this is their third game. I don't know what that is. But I know
nor do I.
Villagers is. I thought that was their first game, actually. But Villagers is the same designer as Streets, which... So Villagers was something we played on the channel. They very kindly sent us a review copy. I didn't get a review copy of Streets, but that might just be because we weren't particularly enamored with Villagers. I mean, we didn't hate it, we didn't love it. It definitely seemed like almost like a sort of rural retheme of Glory to Rome, where you're sort of comboing cards and you're searching for cards that combo with cards you've already got. And as you build up these combos, they get more and more powerful. But we kind of felt like the cards, they weren't as outrageously broken as they are in Glory to Rome. And also just felt a bit more swingy, like luck-based, whether or not you'd get the one you needed or whether someone would follow the same strategy as you. So I'm interested to see what they've done with Game 2. And I actually read the rulebook for this one in preparation for the stream. So this is designed by Hakon Gardner, who did the first one as well. So... in Streets, what you're doing is you're essentially building streets. And you draw a hand of 3 cards, and on your turn you play down one of the cards from your hand. And you get to put a little ownership token on it, which are these ones here. And you also get to put some people on it as well. There's these little meeples that represent different kinds of people here. And each house or each building you'll put on your street will have a value that is sort of... all the values are, they're like sort of mini objectives, right? So asymmetrical objectives. So some will be worth more if there's more green meeples on the street. Some will be worth more if they're next to a purple building. Some will be worth more if there are buildings on all 4 sides of it, because your streets can kind of curve around, as you see in this picture here. Because eventually you're going to want to close your streets off, which means you're going to start a new street adjacent to it in some way. And when you close the street off, you just put a building that's out of alignment with it. So the new building can be bottom on like this, or you can put the top down. And when you close it off, it triggers a sort of a sales process where all of these objectives on the buildings in the street are triggered. You're going to get a bunch of money based on how well you've fulfilled these objectives, and bonus money for every person on the street. And then those people are going to bugger off to other streets within your tableau and create value in those other streets. And that's pretty much the whole game.
But whoever finishes the street is the person who moves all the pieces. So presumably they're going to move them to their own buildings, their own shops first, right?
No, everyone is building their own street tableau.
Oh, really? Wow. I went through this and was somehow under the impression that it was... Are you sure?
No.
I'm 99% certain that it's one tableau. Because if you look at the gifs, it's all It's all different ownership tiles. Why would you need ownership tiles?
So these are tokens that represent that this was your building.
Exactly. Yeah. So the way when you place the building, it gets a person on it, or I think it gets the meeples on it that it depicts. The meeples make it more valuable if they if they're in the right shop. If they're in a shop that match that demographic, they make it more valuable. And then the buildings also have those objectives you mentioned, like be next to this, be next to that. But then when you close the street off, you're triggering scoring for everybody on that street. But the benefit you get is all those people, then those shops close, and all those people will wander along to another shop that matches their demographic if able, and you get control over that as the person who closed that street off. So, and because more and more people get added all the time, it's an exponential increase, right? So every turn there's more meeples never go away at all. Even if they haven't got a shop to move to, they just stand up, which means they have FOMO, fear of missing out. And as soon as they're able to move somewhere, they will. So the scoring opportunities just get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. Okay, well that certainly counteracts one of my main thoughts about the game.
Yeah, because I thought it looked pretty cool. I actually thought this game looked alright. And this was the example of the game that I missed out. Villagers, I completely missed the ball on. Didn't even see the Kickstarter, knew nothing about it. You play on the channel, and I think I saw it in your kitchen when the day it arrived, and was like, oh yeah, I'd heard that was alright, and I'd missed out on it. And then you played it, and I didn't even notice you played it on the.
Well,
I missed it full stop.
I was very excited about Villagers when I first took a look at it, and I thought it looked really, really cool. And then I was a bit underwhelmed by the final product. So I'm very interested to see this one. Now that I know that you're all building on the same tableau and you can kind of piggyback off scoring opportunities created by other players, I'm suddenly much more interested in this because my main concern was a lack of player interaction. But that sounds really cool and interesting. And you're absolutely right. These ownership tokens are indicating who owns each building, so who's going to score the money for the street. I like the idea of being able to sabotage streets as well and trigger them so people get less money when they're not ready. Mm-hmm. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, no, definitely. I actually really like the look of this one. I think we'll find out for certain in our next video, but I think this is probably going to be a back from me. And I was actually going to back it and get Villagers as well, because I'd heard it was really good and felt I missed out on it. And now you're making me question that. So I guess I'll have to do some research into Villagers.
I definitely have a unpopular opinion on Villagers.
Well, I might check out the RSP video on it to see because your experience of playing a game is pretty easy for me to judge, so to speak. To judge if I like it. It's easy for me. It's more valuable for me to watch you play a game than a stranger.
So that's Streets. Yeah, I'm definitely interested in having a look at this.
Yeah, no, I think it looks really nice. And it's not that expensive. How much is the backing again?
So
how much is it?
If you want just Streets, it's £23.
That's not much.
You can get the deluxe edition. What does that come with? It just says deluxe edition. Let's scroll down a bit and have a quick look. Solo. There's a solo mode. I know there's an expansion as well. So we've got all these unlocked stretch. What's in the box? Standard versus deluxe.
Hey, Difter.
Hey, Difter. So the deluxe edition has screen printed meeples. It's got wooden money instead of card money, and the business tokens are wooden instead of cardboard as well. So it's the same thing.
What's the price difference?
The price difference is £15 for essentially a full set of wooden tokens.
It's funny because £38 isn't too bad, but percentage-wise, 15 over 23 is a huge increase to go to the deluxe version.
Yeah, you're definitely paying for wood.
Mike, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions to make sure we have covered the things that people might want to know. How long left do we have to back this game?
10 days from right now.
And you have already covered the publisher and their previous projects. you've covered the designer. How many people does it play, and what is the duration of the game?
Now,
And then we've covered everything.
I believe it was duration is always a loaded question, isn't it? Because I can only tell you what it says on the box, which we all know is super
I'm reading your
inaccurate,
notes.
but-
I'm reading your notes. Back to you.
I know. But so you've always got to caveat it by simply saying, this is what is written on the box. But what I think it's 1 to 4.
It was on the screen a second ago there.
Yeah, I believe it's 1 to 4, and then I think a 5th player is added in something else you're going to get with the box. I'll just scroll back up here and take a quick look. I feel like I saw there was rules, or maybe it was in the draft rule book I was reading. There seemed to be some extra rules for.
Well, villages is 1 to 5, if that's any hint.
Well, I can't find it now, so say it's 1 to 4.
It's 1 to 5. At the top of the screen, it says, if you control F and type in players, the first sentence in the entire Kickstarter page is an urban tile laying game for 1 to 5 players from the designers of Villagers.
There you go. We did the research.
Control F for the win.
But it doesn't actually...
It says 30 to 60 minutes, it says.
Playtime.
And age 10. Yeah, on the top, it says 30 to 60 minutes is the claim. And was Villagers delivered on time, do you know?
Yes, I believe that the Kickstarter for Villagers went off without a hitch. I believe.
Yeah, Heggers, that was a good example of the whole, most people who work in IT don't actually know more about computers than you do. They just know how to Google. But yeah, this is quite a likely back for me, so we'll have to check back next time to see if I follow through on that.
Okay.
What's next? Let us know, guys, if you think you'll be back in the streets, and also let me know what you think of Villagers, because, Mike's not always right. Mike could be wrong. Maybe Villagers is really good.
Well, hey, like I said, it's not a popular opinion. A lot of people really like it.
It was heavily recommended to me last time I went into Orc's Nest, which must have been a long time ago now, considering there's a pandemic.
So we got Rurik, Stone and Blade, which is a reprint of Rurik, Dawn of Kiev with a new expansion, Stone and Blade. And Rurik is a game that I saw on Kickstarter a long time ago in the midst of time. And I can't remember why I didn't look at it in more detail. I'm sure I was just busy at the time. But I saw it set up at Essen 2019, and I wasn't particularly impressed with the way it looked. But I was intrigued by was the fact that it was back on Kickstarter and not immediately surrounding the delivery of the first game. So what tends to happen with these things is they run the second Kickstarter as the first one's being delivered, so there's hype around it, and you're going over and you're playing your friend's new Kickstarter, and you're like, this is great, where can I get it? And your friend's like, well, actually, the new campaign's live right now, you can back it.
So I've had lots of conversations like that. Wow, it works.
It really works. So I was sort of I was sort of intrigued by this, and I didn't want to miss it. There's 70 hours to go currently, as you can see. I wanted to find out what is the hype around Rurik, Dawn of Kiev. So I've gone away and I've read the rulebook for this and the expansion, not in the kind of detail you'd need to read it to play and teach the game, but at least to get an overview of how the game works. So and sort of what's going on. It's a Euro style game where you've got this map here, and each player is a different faction with a little army, and what you're doing is you're pursuing there's like 3 main objectives and 3 secondary objectives, and one of the secondary objectives is actually a secret objective, which I like secret objectives. But you've got these different objectives that you'll have to at least partake in the 3 main objectives, but you don't have to do. You can it's a bit flexible. You could do each of them a little bit or one a lot. And these 3 objectives are sort of controlling, like building buildings on the board, fighting people on the board is a secondary objective. there's two kinds of fighting. There's fighting other players and there's fighting rebels. The point is, as you partake in all of these different objectives, you'll score victory points, and you'll... There you go. You've got rule, build, and trade here. So those are the three main objectives. Ruling is the regions on the board. Building is building in those regions. And trading is putting goods on your boat, which is on your personal player board here. But as you advance in these different tiers, you're going to earn victory points towards the end game. And whoever has the most at the end of the game is the winner. And you can also do the secondary objectives, which involve fighting other players, fighting rebels, and your secret objective, which I think is actually asking you to focus a bit more on something else. But players don't really know what your sort of attention is supposed to be on, which I thought was kind of cool. And its unique selling point is this action tier system. So they've got this thing here, which shows all the actions available in the game. Muster, which is bringing in new soldiers. Moving around the regions on the board. Attacking, which is other players and rebels. Taxing, which is generating income from your or goods from your regions on the board. Building buildings as well, and scheming. I'm not entirely sure what that is, if I'm totally honest. But you've got these five
Looks like
meeples.
it's drawing cards or something, or playing cards.
Yeah, there's it's something to do with conflicts. When you resolve a conflict, you flip over a card, and you may have positive or negative outcomes based on that card. And you've got these meeples numbered 1 through 5 that you're going to use to draft actions. So every player's going to be taking turns putting their things down on the board. That's part 1. Part 2 is picking them back up to trigger the action. And you can see here in the example, number 4 blue meeple is going in over number 1 red meeple, and then getting pushed out by 2 yellow meeple with some money. And this is basically the main sort of interesting action drafting mechanic in this game, because when it gets to the second part, you're going to be taking the actions from lowest to highest. So the highest meeple is prior to... The best action is in the top row. The worst version of the action is in the bottom row. But no matter what version of the action you take, you still get to fundamentally do the thing. But you need money. Like when you get towards the bottom, you can see you need money to do the thing. So if you know you want to build a building, it's not just about whether or not you're going to get to build the building or pay money for it. It's also about whether you're going to get to do it before the yellow person or the red person, right? Because timing is kind of everything. And when you trigger conflicts, or when you move into regions, or when you build in the regions, that's all, the order in which that happens is really, really important. So what you're trying to plan here is when you put down your powerful meeples, and you're thinking about when you're going to pick them up as well. Because if the red player goes in here with number 1 on muster to make sure he gets the top spot, he's got to pay attention to the other higher numbered meeples, right? But if he wants to muster before the blue player or the yellow player, he knows he needs to go in with a low numbered meeple. So if he goes in early with that low numbered guy, he might get pushed down the effective actions. But if he goes in with a high numbered meeple to secure the top spot, then he's going to do that last, right?
So the bottom action's worse, but triggers first, right?
No, the trigger order is based on the number printed on the meeple, right?
Oh, interesting.
So the number has 2 effects, right? The number secures your proximity to the top of the column, but it also determines the order in which the meeples are going to activate in the second part.
Right. And I'm assuming the 2 yellow meeples paying 3 money to bring the value up to 5. So
exactly right. So if you want to do an action that's powerful and also do it first, the best way to do it is to bribe, which means you play down your meeple with a number of coins to make up its number. So a level 1 meeple with 4 coins or 5 coins would get up to tier 5 or 6 and secure the top spot. Not only would they have the best spot in the column, they would also get to go first in part 2. So managing this board is essentially the mechanic that sort of the game is all about.
Yeah, that's the game, it looks like.
Yeah, well, and then you're sort of... of course, it needs to have meaning, right? Which is then, of course, activating these actions in the order is going to be... So you're always going to be trying to work out what your opponents are trying to do and guessing their motivations and where they're going to go next. Because you don't want to bribe your way into the top spot on this board to secure something that's not actually contentious if you've misread someone else's intentions. Yeah. And and then you've got all this context of the 6 possible objectives. and the secret objective as well. And you've got these rebel factions. You'll get points for killing the rebels, but then if your opponent kills them first, you can't get those points. And so then the expansion adds in a whole bunch more rebels and just kind of builds on all of these actions. And it really seems to just add more to what's already going on here. Anyway, I gotta say, reading the rulebook for this, I immediately wanted to play it. Like, I got so excited about it, like really interested. And I can't believe this like passed me by for so long. I was like, this looks great. So I will probably be backing this.
I knew nothing about this, and I hadn't even managed to look at the Kickstarter page for this one prior to this video. And when I first saw it, I thought, judging a book by its cover, no, just not interested. It just doesn't make me even want to look at the rulebook, which is, like I said, judging a book by its cover. But we all do it. It happens. It just doesn't look particularly exciting to me. But that board there that we just looked at for a while, that is what it has had the effect on me of, oh, I haven't seen that before, and that's a rare feeling to have when looking at board game mechanics.
It's true.
So that actually looks really good. I actually really like the idea of that whole meeple bribing order activate. That looks really good.
Yeah, it really felt like, it's funny because what it felt to me like was it almost felt a bit like Inish, where you've got those objectives and you're doing all of these things and there's sort of this direct player confrontation. Except instead of drafting cards, you're managing this sort of worker placement, resource management Euro game, But there's still like, all of this direct player contention. So it's like, what are the players going to do? What areas are they going to control? Which objectives are they going for? So I was just like, I just thought that was really, really interesting. So I'm really, I'm backing this.
Yeah. Excuse me. I'm a little upset that a game that gave me that initial meh, judging a book by its cover reaction has such a intriguing looking mechanic. I wish it was in a game that also was flashy. You can't do everything.
I mean, it's got nice artwork, but it does have this like dry historical Euro kind of look,
Yeah, I for some reason the color palette of the artwork is a bit.
The artwork on the board
dreary. Yeah,
the artwork on the board looks a bit dreary, but the artwork on the cards looks pretty cool. At least what I've seen of it.
It's in fairness, if this was like 20 years ago, we'd think it was the best looking game ever. It's only because our asset.
We're
so spoiled.
Like I said, I saw it set up at the press preview in Essen 2019, and I sort of looked at it, and I remember thinking I should probably figure out what this is about because I'm definitely being too judgy on it, and then I didn't have time. I got distracted by something else, and I never went back to it, which was such a shame. So it's not super cheap. I think if you want the full game plus expansion, you're looking at 89 quid. If you want it with the neoprene mat and fancy resources, it's 116 quid. So it's not that is the Kickstarter edition of the game. There's a retail edition of the game that is, I think, cheaper, although I'm not sure how much cheaper.
89's not terrible with an expansion. That's not too bad. It's not outrageous. I mean, it's the same price. It's similar to the price of Hamburg.
Depending on which edition you went for, yeah.
Yeah. So, how long's left of this? Only 70 hours left.
70 hours. So if I had a bell or something, I'd ring it. Ding, ding. If this is piquing your interest, get involved now.
And it's 1 to 4 players, allegedly 35 minutes per player. No. So that's, an hour to 2 hours, essentially, they're claiming, or just over.
But I like how it's it's sort of one thing at a time, right? So, you know, and you can see actually that, for example, each player has two number, like players have the same, players can have, because of the bribing system, players can have meeples of the same number as well. So it's like, but everyone places a meeple and then everyone picks a meeple up. So it's it's one action at a time. So that's going to mean low downtime, I think. Again, I'm predicting this based off of a review of the rulebook. I haven't played it, but also that means that there's going to be occasions where you might have two meeples with the same values as well. So you're going to have to decide which one to pick up. So it's going to have you're always going to have sort of interesting choices to make as well, I think.
I'm just looking at their previous stuff. Yeah, they did the previous Kickstarter for this. They also did a game called Gearworks and a game called Flag Dash, neither of which I know anything about.
I don't know anything about Gearworks or Flag Dash either. It's designed by Stanislav Kordonsky.
It's a good name.
Is my my best pronunciation of that.
Oh, he did Dice Hospital, did he?
Yeah, I saw his little Board Game Geek credentials here. So he's designed 6 games, which includes the Shadow Kingdoms of Valyria, which is one of the games in the Kingdoms of Valyria series. He also did Lock Up, a Role Player Tale, which is in the Role Player series, and Dice Hospital, which I've heard, is not bad.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing.
So there you go. Not someone without credentials.
Absolutely.
So we got next.
For that price, you get Twilight Imperium 4 expansion. Just depends on your priorities, Solgus, I guess.
Oh, that's true.
Right.
Okay, so 70 hours left to go on that one anyway, so what is next? Ooh.
I know what's next. Ha ha ha. Because I can see the Excel sheet.
It's the Reckoner's Steel Slayer.
It is indeed.
So here's what I got for you guys on this one. This is published by Nauvoo Games. It's designed by Brett Sobel and Seth Van Orden, who both, I don't think they had a whole lot of credentials other than this. But this is a follow-up to the first one, which is Reckoners. And that was not a Kickstarter. I thought it was, but it actually was just a game that came out. So now I guess they're deluxifying it with an expansion, and they're making a big Kickstarter campaign out of it. And Nauvoo have 6 games on their credentials list here, which
it's not a standalone
there it is.
expansion.
It is a Kickstarter. I thought it was, and then I couldn't. Oh, never mind. Okay, so Reckoners was a Kickstarter, and they've also done Stockpile, and that's had 3 Kickstarters apparently.
And this isn't a standalone expansion, I don't think, is it? Because I couldn't find any reference to it being a standalone expansion, but you can buy it by itself. But I guess that makes sense because if it did have a previous Kickstarter, that does make sense.
Well, I scanned the rulebook for the Reckoners, but it was very dense, so I didn't read the whole thing. I didn't know how it played. There is a Rodney video, which I could have watched. But,
it's essentially a dice-based action selection cooperative game. If that tells you much of anything.
Yeah, I read. So what I could understand was that essentially you're walking around. So the Reckoners is a series of books by Brandon Sanderson, which I don't know anything about. All I know is that it's a sort of a strange space event creates some effect that turns certain people into superhumans. They get lots of special powers, but something about it inherently makes them evil, and so they become called this sort of class of person called an epic, which is someone with special powers who is evil. And the Reckoners are a group of ordinary humans who are guerrilla fighters who are working underground to bring down the epics who are ruling the post-apocalyptic world in these big cities. And other epics sort of smooze up to the powerful epics in order to seek favor and benefits. And so one of the main villains in the book series is called Steelheart, who seems to be some kind of Magneto type character who's created a big city out of steel that he rules over, and you're trying to rise up and bring down Steelheart, and there'll be other epics joining his cause. And they move around the board, and you've got all these minis. I'm trying to find a picture of the board here on this Kickstarter page. But they'll move around the board, and you've got to send each player will have a reckoner who'll go out and try and bring these people down. You've got to do research to find out what their weaknesses are, which I think is just sort of represented by filling up a track, and then you can do sort of more damage to them. But the core gameplay for the reckoners, the rebels, is Yahtzee. Basically, you're going to throw a bunch of dice, lock the ones you want, re-roll, lock again, re-roll, stick with what you got. Except, unlike Yahtzee, where you're trying to achieve a single hand of dice, a single specific set, in this, the dice will show actions that you can take. So after you're done rolling them, you'll then employ those actions to do things on the board, which is things like move around, fight, Steelheart, or the other epics. You can sort of do research and gain data, and that's about as far as I got with it.
Yeah, it's basically Elder Sign, but 100 times more complex.
Not far off, actually, Chris. That's a good comparison. So it says it plays in 75 minutes, and it's simultaneous play as well. So everyone's rolling their little dice at the same time, and then you're all talking about what you're going to do with them. I don't know why.
Sorry, go on.
No, go on. You go first.
Oh, I was going to add that you can take actions in any order, and you can jump around between actions. I know that you could take one action, and I could do two, and then you could go back to you, and so on. Just one of those kind of co-op games.
Yeah, there's an element of resource management as well. I think you have to accrue certain resources that you need to do other things. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why the original campaign for this really didn't appeal to me. I don't know if it's maybe because I don't know the theme at all. I don't know the characters at all, but there wasn't anything about it that particularly grabbed me, which is funny because I was really grabbed by Dice Throne Adventures, which is a sort of dungeon crawler using Yahtzee mechanics. And that's cooperative too, and you're fighting big fantasy enemies. So having gone over this campaign again, there still wasn't anything that particularly enticed me about it.
Yeah, it looks good, but it just doesn't seem to have the X factor necessary for me to pull the plug. Not pull the plug.
Pull the trigger.
Pull the trigger. And I think for me, this is a very subjective thing, but I think for me one of the reasons is the fact that it is an established IP that I don't know, and therefore I feel like I'll be inherently missing out on something, and won't get the full value out of it. It is a theme I like the idea of. It's a bit like The Boys, isn't it? Trying to take down superheroes.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely looks like a more YA version. I don't know. Maybe the books are super violent, but the art and what I'm getting from this is it's not as graphic as The Boys.
Yeah, but it's also not as intriguing, in my opinion, because the whole point of The Boys is it's the idea of if superheroes existed in the real world, what would happen? Well, Superman would become a psychopath because he is basically God, and they've become privatized. That is, it's actually whereas
but
this isn't what would happen. This is much more mentally simple. It's just superheroes are always bad. They're always evil. That's less interesting.
That's based on our review of the board game, right? Not knowing the source material.
Of course.
Yeah, I
agree
with
you. Sweeping statements based on the IP, based solely on the board game. But
exactly.
But it doesn't appeal to me as a result.
There was two things, because I was going to say in The Boys, obviously you've got this idea that the superheroes are morally grey, right? Some are good, some are bad.
They're just people, right?
Yeah, they're just people coping with this extraordinary situation. Whereas in the board game, it makes it very clear that the epics are evil. Having said that, at the beginning of the rule book, it actually caveats it by saying, we've gone to lengths to not spoil the content of the novels at all. And so we've removed some of the narrative events that would have been in the novels, and as such you might find things a bit anachronistic or some of the characters a bit different, which I thought was really, really interesting, because maybe that's why, for example, all the epics appear to be sort of very one-dimensional characters. Maybe. Because they didn't want to put in the spoilers from the novels. I don't know. But yeah, I just I mean
But I guess the point I was trying to make though is that the IP is not one I'm familiar with, and it seems to me a lesser version of an IP I do like. And then the game doesn't have anything unique enough to make me want to pull the trigger in of itself.
do you know
Therefore,
what
all
I
those
would?
things combined, it makes it a miss for me.
It just occurred to me I would back like Vengeance, but rethemed as The Boys so hard. Like,
Yeah, I think a boys' board game is coming. I really do.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. So we got some chat here. Bernardo says it's totally overproduced and didn't bring anything new to the table, in my opinion. I was thinking about the production. I was thinking I love game trays. I love fast setup. I love getting it to the table. But this is a lot of game trays. Like I presume this is the 4-player setup. And I think there's one of these trays. This tray at the top here. Can you guys see my cursor? I assume you can. This is Steelheart, right? He's the main villain, although he sounds like a Care Bears baddie. And then and then these 4 boards here in the middle, these represent the other epics that are sort of supporting him. And I think these are a bit randomized, so you don't quite know which ones are going to come out each game, which is good. And then these boards over here, these represent the Reckoners, so you got your 4 Reckoners set up for this one as well. And then there's a board up here, which I think is just tracking things like marketplaces and stuff. I know these cards at the top are equipment that you can buy, so your characters can get stronger over the course of the game. That's an action that you can take, which is pretty neat. But yeah, it is basically like 10 game trays out on the table, which I don't know, kind of feels like a lot of plastic game trays.
He is a massive table hog. Although it's worth saying, for everything I've said, haven't heard that much about the game, but everyone I've ever heard talking about it is very positive about it. Apparently, it is really good fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of positive talk from reviewers and things here on this page.
Did Ian
So
O'Toole do the art for this?
he did the graphic design.
Oh, okay. I was thinking that it doesn't really strike. Like I would never have guessed it was Ian O'Toole.
Yeah, I noticed he was credited in the rulebook, so I just put it down there because some people really like his stuff and find it just
I,
more
I,
accessible. So
I do like his stuff, but I never would have thought this was his.
yeah, so he apparently did the sort of graphic designs and the graphic layouts and things like that. I
Okay.
assume that the art is not his though, because he doesn't
Yeah.
tend to do art like this, comic book style sort of stuff. I
Yeah.
say comic book or whatever you would call this. So and how much is it to get in on this? So it's £46 for Steel Slayer, which is the expansion. We don't know if you need the base game to play it.
I think you do.
Yeah, we think you do. You can get the deluxe edition of Steel Slayer for 58, the Epic edition, which comes with pre-painted miniatures, for 69. You can get all-in base editions, which is the basic versions of both games, for 100 quid. That's $129. All-in Express, which is a version that's going to arrive sooner, so you can pay extra for expedited shipping at this stage of the process, because there's only 1,000 of them. Having said that, at this time there's still 957 available.
Oh wow.
So that's $10 extra, or about 8 quid extra will get you All In Express. And then there's All In Deluxe Edition, that's 124 quid. And All In Express of the Deluxe Edition, which still has 537 of 600 left, that's 131. All In Epic Edition, which is 150 quid, or
Too many pledge levels.
$189. And All In Express of the Epic Edition for 155 quid, or $200, which gets you everything and the pre-painted minis and all of that stuff shipped to you. I guess ASAP. And there's
You get the base version immediately, I think, isn't that it? The base game, rather.
maybe it's just 2-wave shipping. Yeah, it seems to say estimated deliveries are the same as the others, so we'll have to look up exactly what that was getting you. But what I do note is that that's got 300 available and 200 of them have sold. There's about 100 left. I'll just have a quick look down here and see what the difference is, but
It is, for the record, by the way, 1 to 6 players, actually.
huh.
1 to 6 players, and yes, apparently only takes 75 minutes. Although, so with the simultaneous rolling, the simultaneous play going on to a certain extent, so I guess that makes sense. But my God, I think 6 players, it's already a table hog.
Yeah, okay, so it is immediate shipping of the content from the first campaign, so the stuff that's already sort of been produced.
Okay.
You'll still have to wait for the new Steel Slayer content from this campaign, if at the same time as everyone else.
Selkith, I would not back this just for miniatures or just a miniature version of it, because I am already about 12 years behind on my miniature painting.
This is, I mean, these miniatures seem very specific. So unless you were trying to populate a superhero themed board game, but there doesn't even seem to be that many miniatures because they have.
No, there's not that many.
Yeah, there's the main characters and 2 bosses, and that's it. I think so. No, I don't think this is a miniatures sale either. Um, Although I basically never back anything for the miniatures.
Ah, I do.
Anyway, 11 days left on that, but yeah, I'm still not really sold on it. And if you love Yahtzee mechanics and you're looking for something cooperative, I don't know what the situation is with Dice Throne Adventures, but I love Dice Throne, and I'm very keen to check out Adventures.
Cool.
All right, next thing.
Next.
It's still the Reckoners. Come on. Hey, here we go. Philosophia, the floating world. So I knew nothing about this going in, and I did some research. This is the successor, not re-implementation, but just sort of spiritual successor to Philosophia, Dare to be Wise, which is a game that was published by Cognito Ego Meeple, and designed by Joseph N. Adams, and I believe Madeline Adams, although I think she might. I don't know if she helped on that one. I'll have to check. There you go. That was the previous campaign. So it's the only 2 games that they've published. Maybe the company's run by the designers. But from what I can tell about the previous version, it was a game set in the realm of ancient Greece, where you all played philosophers, and you're playing sort of a sandbox game to wander around the world collecting things. It reminded me a bit of something like Tokaido, except instead of following a path, you were just kind of wandering around an open world and collecting these different things. And then at the end, you'd sort of use the things you'd collected, which represented the philosophies you'd uncovered, the wisdom you'd amassed by exploring the world, in a sort of rock, paper, scissors style playoff to see who would win. This is a bit different.
Is this the game I think it is?
So this one's a lot different to that. This is a deck building game with some very interesting deck building mechanics. So I did glance over the rule book, and there is a similarity in the sense that you're wandering around this map. So you're all taking on the roles of ancient Japanese philosophers or houses. I'm not sure, but you're taking on the role of someone in ancient Japan, and you've got a deck of cards that you start with. There's a deck building element, but you're wandering around this map of Japan where you can partake in, again, this sandbox element of sort of different tasks. And each task has an objective, and when you accomplish the objective for the task, you will be awarded with a victory point token. And if you amass 4 of them, you win the game. Additionally, each player is sort of like a hidden location attached to them. And if you can discern the hidden location, you unlock their token, which will give you a bonus action in the game. And also you can win with just 2 victory point tokens instead of 4. But each player also has a decoy token, and if you unlock that by accident, it blocks off an action on your board. So you can't do that anymore. But the fundamental of the game is that you've got actions that pertain to accomplishing these goals, which are things like search and move, and buy additional cards for your deck, because you are deck building, But what's interesting is that the game is played simultaneously to avoid downtime, I suppose. And you draw a hand of cards, 6 cards at the beginning of your turn. Then every player will give their hand of cards to the player on their left. The player on their left burns 1 card, not literally but figuratively, into the discard, and then creates 2 stacks out of the remaining 5 cards, and passes the 2 stacks back, 1 stack of 2 and 1 of 3. Then the player who gave their hand over must choose which of the 2 stacks to keep and discard the other. So it's got this sort of deck cutting and setting by your opponents. And so every player does this simultaneously. So they all hand over their hands at the beginning, then they all get their hands back, and then everyone has 2 or 3 cards, which they will then play to carry out things. And again, simultaneously. So you'll be playing your cards simultaneously to do these actions. And if you come into contention with another player, there's this influence track. And so ties will be broken by the influence track, and your influence will diminish if you win the tiebreak. And you'll be moving up and down that influence track. But you can also do things on the game board to improve your influence as well, to ensure you win these clashes more often.
Sounds interesting, but also incredibly inelegant.
That was kind of my impression, yeah. The rulebook was a lot of text. And again, this is my best summary from a scanning of the rulebook. I didn't read the whole thing because there was an enormous amount of text. So I just kind of identified what I felt were the tentpole mechanics. And yeah, I was sort of intrigued, but also looking at it, I kind of felt like it intrigued me in the way that I'm sort of intrigued by something unusual. You know, it intrigued me academically. You know, it wasn't like Rurik, where I read the rulebook and I was like, I want to play this now. You know, I read this and I thought, I would probably find this interesting in an academic way to play. Which is not necessarily to say fun, you know?
Yeah.
And so I was definitely like not sold on this one, I'm afraid, folks. If I'm honest. I mean, the production looks nice. There's all these big cards and nice artwork. The board,
yeah,
I mean,
the new game definitely looks nicer than the old one.
Yes. Well, and the old one to me didn't seem to have as much game to it, right? Like there seems to be a lot of game to this in the sense that there's a lot happening, but I just wasn't sure if I felt like I liked the idea of curating someone's hand every turn. And like in theory, I like it as a mechanic, right? Like this idea that you've got to, you know, look at what your opponent's doing and sort of make interesting choices for them. You know, if they've got one really good card, you can get rid of it, and then you've kind of got to make these 2 sort of piles. And I always like that I divide, you choose mechanic, you know, or I've got to make a decision about how I divide things up in order to make it difficult for you to pick a pile, right? Because if I make it too easy, then I'm, you know, if I put all the good stuff in one pile, you'll just take it, right? So that's always interesting to me. But I feel like everybody doing this, every turn, you're going to get some people for whom the curation is really quick and other people who are spending time thinking about it. And it might just kind of sort of drag that phase out a bit. And also, if you get a really good card, someone's just going to burn that every time, and then you're never going to get to play it. So, you know,
it sounds really, really cool, but it also sounds A, tedious, and B, inelegant, and it's also going to massively exacerbate the issue of, look, you always benefit slightly if the player to your right isn't very good, right? But hopefully not enough. Not in all games, but in many games you'll benefit a little bit. It's going to completely blow that out of the water. If
the player that you're passing to has no interest in your strategy or what you're doing, and is just kind of choosing things, or they're just bad, or they just haven't picked up what's going on, then they're exactly like if you're playing with 2 people that play all the time, and then a third person who's never played before, and they're just kind of sitting there asking everyone at the table, what does this card do all the time? You know, should I burn this one? Yeah, I can see that.
Or even if they understand everything, if a new person coming in, the person sitting to their left is going to win. Almost definitely. I mean, I haven't played the game. Maybe I'm wrong, but it sounds like it's going to massively exacerbate that problem of the person sitting left of the worst player getting a slight boost. And as I
Yeah,
said, it sounds
because
tedious and elegant to be doing every turn.
yeah, I'm agreeing with you on that one. So there's the influence track in action. Reminded me a lot actually. This reminded me a lot of what is it, the honor track in Rising Sun, which I as a mechanic in Rising Sun I really like. But that's obviously an entirely different kind of game. So
Mm.
this doesn't strike me as the kind of game with like table talk. Again, if there was like sort of a negotiation phase where it was like, don't get rid of that card, I really need it. I'll give you some money or some information if you leave
Yeah,
my
what if
cards
you're
alone.
doing it for what if you're doing it for each other? What if you were paired off and the pairings kept changing? Obviously have to have an equal number of players or something, or you'd have to find a way to do it with odd numbers. But that might be, like you said, that could allow for negotiation.
I mean, like I said, the rule book was quite dense, and
That'll take a
I did a reasonably brief scan of it. So if this all sounds like something you'd be interested in more detail, I fully recommend taking a look at it in more detail because there may well be some fundamental thing I've missed here that as we're talking about it now, maybe there's some negotiation or it's intended to have negotiation with people curating your hand or something like that. But it struck me as more of a sort of a traditional deck builder, where everyone's playing out their stuff at the same time with these two quirks, right? Someone's curating your hand and also simultaneous play once the game begins. So, and I do like these sort of attempts to get around the normal pit or normal downsides of deck builders. Primarily for me the everyone sitting doing their own thing the whole time. But yeah, I didn't pick up on any mechanics that were sort of get around these initial concerns I'm perceiving.
Mm-hmm. Well, it has 10 days left at the moment. You can pledge for the new game, Floating World. You can pledge for about £69. You can pledge for both the new and the old, East meets West. And that gets £99 for both games, which is actually quite a good deal. Unless the original game was always a lot cheaper. But you can basically add on the original game, Dare to Be Wise, for 30 quid, essentially. How many does it play? I can't find that information.
I feel like it goes up to 6.
Control F. 1 to 6 players.
Yeah.
1 to 6 players.
45 minutes to 2 hours to play.
You can. Here's something worth noting. You can play it currently on Tabletop Simulator with 1 to 3 players for free, and they are inviting people to go and do this. So
that's cool.
Feel free to, if you have Tabletop Simulator on Steam, feel free to download the workshop plugin for this and give it a go, with the complete blessing of the publisher. So that's probably worth doing if you want to check it out.
Hager says the solo play looks intriguing. And Lasse says, I'm late to the stream. Have you covered Monsters on Board, The Reckoners, or Forgotten Depth? Well, we have covered The Reckoners, Lasse, but we haven't even looked at Monsters on Board or Forgotten Depth. So we can... You're supposed to comment on the last one with the stuff you want us to cover. So if you want to... Also, Lasse, are you a patron? I also said to everyone on Patreon, I was like, comment on this post with the stuff you want us to cover. So we can bring those up in a minute, but we haven't done any research on those because
Monsters on Board I briefly looked at in my own time at some point. Yeah, but I can't remember anything about it. Well, we can have a little look at it. It'll probably trigger my memories.
Absolutely no problem, Lasse. But I would love for you guys to leave me some suggestions so that we're covering the stuff that you're interested in seeing as well. And also, if you do want to see more of this kind of content and you're liking it or finding it helpful, please do also leave a like on the video because that really helps us to know what you're into and it helps YouTube to know that you're into it. Right. I've added those to the show notes and now...
Oh my god. Oh, you're like updating my Excel sheet in real time. That's trippy.
The show notes is a living document, living and breathing. So I think moving on from Floating World then, which has funded, by the way, all of the games we've covered today so far has been funded. Elias, thank you for the like. That's That's very nice. And Heggers says, we expect you to read our minds. Heggers, this is not the mind. This is a Kickstarter.
Eind.
Didn't they come out with a new version of that recently? Oh, anyway.
Yes, the Mind Extreme is now a thing. I have not played it yet.
I have not looked at it either. Okay, so
but it wasn't on Kickstarter, so I don't care.
This is Kickstarter commentary, not board game commentary.
I only play Kickstarters. That's the kind of gamer I've become.
I got a couple of games in the post, actually, just this week that are not Kickstarters. So that was exciting. Me
too. We can talk about them in the end, actually, maybe, if you want a non-Kickstarter section.
No, that's not what this is about. But, so we got Flourish is the next one we're covering here. And this is a game from the creators of Everdell. So this is being published by Starling Games, who are, of course, the Everdell people. They also did, was it Whispers of War? Was that what it was called? War of Whispers? War of Whispers.
War of Whispers, yeah. Yeah, which I haven't played, but I hear good things about.
I looked at the rules for it briefly, and I thought that it looked interesting, and then I thought it was the kind of game that was just going to devolve into sort of king-making bickering. And there also seemed to be hidden objectives, which I liked in theory, but in practice, I thought it felt like they would only serve to make the opponents feel as though there was they didn't know what they were doing. There was like nothing they could do to sort of stop you. You know, like it's all about making these temporary alliances and things. But if you don't know what anyone's doing, then how are you supposed to make intelligent decisions, right? But anyway, I just looked at that briefly. So there you go, a little bonus coverage there. Black Orchestra, I've heard good things about. That's the one where you're
Black Orchestra. I have that. I've played that a few times.
Oh yeah, did you like it?
I really enjoy it. Yeah, it's got a certain finality to its potential because it's a almost a pandemic style co-op game. So once you've kind of beaten on the hardest difficulty, the only thing that's going to change is the variable board setup. But I have not played beaten on its hardest difficulty. It's hard. I have beaten it, but not on the hardest difficulty. And it's really, really thematic, and it's really cool. It's a really interesting theme trying to take down the Nazis. I recommend it.
There you go. We got Everdell as well, of course. If you don't know anything about Everdell, that is a worker placement tableau building game that we covered on the channel, and it's got a bunch of expansions that we also covered.
Been playing that recently. Actually, I quite like it.
Yeah, I like Everdell too. Even I think more than I thought I should. But we're talking about Flourish. So
Flourish, which is 1 to 7 players. Interesting.
What?
And it takes 20 minutes to play, apparently. I know, 1 to 7? Who plays solo games? I made a joke about thought you were surprised about a different thing. Ha ha ha. 7's a weird number, right? Don't say it very often. Apparently it has engaging solo rules. They're advertising that. Solo gaming is becoming a bigger thing. It's become very important that people advertise that they have good solo modes. Especially in these times.
I'm just wondering if Clarissa Wilson, James's wife, also worked on Everdell, or if this is her first foray into the world of game design. So I don't think so, because she's not credited here.
Maybe she's jumped on board.
She's a new addition, yeah. Clearly James felt he needed some help with Flourish that he didn't need with Everdell.
Well, Flourish is about making a garden, isn't it?
Yes.
Maybe she knows a lot about gardens.
Yeah. Or maybe she was unduly uncredited on Everdell.
Oh, it actually says 20 to 60 minutes in another part of the page, and it's 20 minutes elsewhere, so make of that what you will. Hey, Sam.
Hey, Sam. So what Oh, am I getting
Please.
feedback?
No, I think that was me talking at the exact same time as you started. Please continue.
Okay, so what I did glance over the rule books for the rule book for the main game here, but I didn't have a chance to look at the expansion called Friends and something else, and I didn't have a chance to
Friends and Follies.
Friends and Follies, that's right. But essentially, what you're doing in this game, from what I can tell, is there's a deck of cards here in the middle, and at the beginning, everyone draws 3 cards off the top of the deck. You've also got here these little score pads, so these are just used for tracking your score, and these little walls here are used for separating you from the other players. and you've got your hand of 3 cards. You'll put 1 card face down in front of you. You'll put 1 card on this side of the wall here, and another card on this side of the wall here for those players. Once everyone's done that, you'll pick up the cards that are on the inside of your walls, so 2 cards, 1 from the player on your left, 1 from the player on your right. You'll draw 1 more card off the top of the deck to make it back up to 3, and then you'll repeat the process. And you do this 3 times to complete your top row of cards in your garden. Each card has a end game scoring mechanic, it has a end of round scoring mechanic, and it has a bunch of symbols on it that contribute to these. So what you're essentially trying to do is you build out your tableau, which will wind up being 12 cards, 4 rows of 3. You will be looking to attain more of the symbols that will trigger with your end game scoring, and you'll be looking to capitalize on your end of round scoring as well. So after you finish a single row, you'll score the cards that you put down this round, the 3 cards you put down this round, but they will take into account all of the cards in the tableau. So the end of round scoring will become more potent as it progresses. And then at the end of the 4th round, the drafting is actually skipped in the 4th round. So you just kind of play it. You draw 5 cards and just play out 3, and then you score that row as well, and you do your end game scoring, and you get a bunch of points. And that's the whole game.
So it's drafting the game.
Yeah, it's basically drafting with very simple tableau building, from what I can tell.
Huh. Yeah. It seems nice.
It looks remarkably pleasant. The artwork seems really nice. Apparently people who are really into gardening will recognize all the plants and things because they're real things.
Yeah, my mum will love this because she'll be able to name all the plants. Oh, they actually have the names printed on them anyway. But my mum was a florist, and it's remarkable. You can walk through any garden anywhere and just ask her, what's that flower? And she just knows. It's remarkable. Her encyclopedic knowledge of flowers. She would get a huge... We used to play a game called the Wildflower Game when I was a child, which was a terrible game for anyone who does not know about flowers. But she loved it, and she always won. And she would... This is actually... You know what? This is a game... I actually probably will end up backing this because I'll probably give it to her for Christmas.
So there is, I think, also a cooperative version where you can you basically go through the same exact process, but there's communication restrictions and you're trying to hit a certain score.
Has a co-op and a competitor. Yeah, 39. How much? £31. Oh, yeah, this is a definite back from me because it's a Christmas present for my mum.
See, and I don't know about the Friends and Foes expansion. It comes with a bunch of things here. But do you know, I was looking at it and I was kind of thinking to myself, and maybe I'm way off base here, as I was looking at the rules and things, it felt to me, as someone I like gardening and everything, but it felt to me like a less interesting version of Arboretum.
Oh, I haven't played that. But that's trees, not flowers. Yeah,
Well,
I know,
yes.
Sam, I know. But you don't understand the sheer joy my mother gets from the theme of a board game being flowers. She will be over the moon with this. And also, she's not like an advanced game or anything, so the fact that it's quite simple is perfect for her.
Well,
it's a game that her and my dad will be able to play by themselves, and it's a game that we'll be able to play with them when we visit. So I know what you're saying, Sam, but yes, really, this is a definite back for me because it is a perfect Christmas present.
And I think your family, Chris, they're sort of like they're sort of like very entry level gamers, aren't they? They've played some games. You generally get them playing games, but also they don't have like sort of a collection or anything like that. And that's sort of what's interesting to me is that I thought the one thing, like for the level of simplicity in the gameplay, the one thing that sort of made me cock an eyebrow, and I think I probably have trouble gauging these things now because I'm so deep in the hobby, but these little victory cards here, player aids, and looking at the anatomy of the cards themselves seemed almost too complex for the level of gameplay. But I don't know if that's because the gameplay is too simple. Do you know what I mean?
So are you saying the way the information is presented on the cards, the iconography, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so for me the most interesting part of the game is of course the end game and end of round scoring objectives. That's pretty much all there is to it in terms of a mechanism for assessing your decisions. You're set collecting to score more points with those triggers. And I don't know how much complexity there is to them because I didn't go through all the cards in detail. But it just felt like I looked at these player aids and it just felt like there was a lot of text and sort of little fiddly bits on them, which surprised me given how simple the basic mechanic is. And I just thought, if I explained the structure of a turn to my mom, I think she could play it. But the minute I showed her these reference cards, she'd probably just give up. But I don't think that would be the same for your family anyway.
Yeah, my family, my dad struggles sometimes with. He really kind of my dad would much rather we kind of knew how to play 10 games. We played those 10 games, whereas I'm constantly bringing out new stuff for them. I don't make them play super complex stuff because that wouldn't be fun for anybody. But my dad will struggle sometimes, but he'll get through it with help, and then he'll be better the next time. Like you'd be surprised at how complex at the level of complexity of games my parents can play, despite the fact that they're terrible the first time. So they could handle it. This one definitely, even with the things you mentioned.
There is,
and my mom would get so much joy, and my dad would love it because it's simple, and my mom would love it because it's flowers. It hits
that market.
I don't want it, but I know someone who will really get a lot of joy out of it. So it's not a back from me. I'm probably saying I'm going to back it's probably misrepresenting my opinion of it. It's not a back from me, but it's a back from my mum, and I'll be placing it for her.
I do like the animals here in the Friends and whatever expansion. Follies and Foes. Yeah, because this has foes, right? It's like the slugs and shit. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I like these little animals. I like these little things here as well, but I'm not. This is not. I mean, Arboretum does the same thing with a much smaller box. It's way cheaper. I say the same thing. For those of you that don't know Arboretum, it's essentially set collection where you have a hand of cards and you're drawing cards off of a deck or drafting them out of a marketplace, and it's trees, numbered trees, and you're essentially trying to lay them down in a tableau in front of you to create avenues of trees that are worth the most points. And if you need to have, in order to score an avenue, you have to have a high numbered tree in your hand, but if you have the highest number of tree, you can actually block other people's avenues. So there's sort of this like, who has the tree I need kind of element going on. It's actually surprisingly sort of vicious with a lot of player interaction. And it takes half an hour to play, and it's a small deck of cards, and it's so easy to set up as well. You just take out different kinds of trees based on the player count. I really like Arboretum, and it's dirt cheap.
I think it's worth addressing something that's been brought up in the comments here. Can you pause for a second? I want to cover.
Are you going to talk about the controversy?
Yes.
Let's bring that up. I hadn't heard of that before this.
Nor had I. So, yeah, the one thing I was going to bring up, just because we wanted to bring up past Kickstarters, is that I know the Everdell not second edition, but the second Everdell Kickstarter, did also have some controversy regarding to their shipping prices massively going up. The price of shipping was enormous in the end, and I know I got caught out by it, and Richard got caught out by it, and we were not happy. I'm pretty sure it was while we were at Essen actually last year that we got the email saying, "Oh, you owe us like £70 or something." It was like absurd. I can't remember how much it was. It was very
actually,
high.
now that I think about it, I remember someone mentioning it to me as well, that they weren't going to back Spire, Crest, and Belfair because the shipping was so expensive. And
but it changed though. It did definitely change between.
Right.
Maybe it changed while the Kickstarter was still live, and we just weren't savvy enough to notice we'd already backed. But it definitely did change between launching and backer kit or pledge manager. Mm-hmm. And it definitely was. It would make me wary of them. Of starting games, and yes, and this new thing where people broke Kickstarter guidelines and they got to keep the money. If that's true, I would never back another thing by these people again. That's appalling behavior.
So what does that mean? Break Kickstarter? Well, we don't know.
So maybe saying nasty things in the comments is what it sounds like.
Oh, we can actually just go and look at the comments and see what people are saying.
Yeah. No,
Some
it doesn't
of you
sound
people
legal,
are
does
the
it?
worst.
It doesn't sound. Where is that?
It's the first comment.
So,
About
oh
6 hours ago from Drew Orthman. Some of you people are the worst. Their comments on community etiquette were certainly misguided, but they fixed it at the behest of backers and acknowledged they were wrong. What more do you want? Your continued belligerence towards Starling Games hurts the designers more. Go away and let this game flourish like it should.
So have they fixed the? Have they fixed it then? Have
Have
they?
they made? Let's see if they made an update here. Fully funded in. There's only one update, and it doesn't seem to have anything about this here.
This organic teabag. The next comment is it seems to be quoting their guidelines or their rules, which have very amusing terminology for guidelines. If you violate the community guidelines by being a jerk. How
and we'll decide who's a jerk.
How well legally defined Starling Games?
Starling Games are the world's foremost authority on who and who isn't a jerk.
You will not be eligible to receive any rewards from the campaign. We will consider your pledge a donation. Fuck off, Starling Games. Fuck off. Holy shit.
But have they taken action on this?
Allegedly
people?
They have, but even if they wrote that holy crap!
Yeah.
What absolute! I won't call them names.
Go.
I'm actually shocked.
Thank you to the folks who provided feedback on our Running an Awesome Campaign section. In keeping with the mutual respect and fairness intended by that policy, we have revised that section. It was not our intent to create an unfair situation for our backer community. We truly appreciate the diligence and care of those who raised this concern respectfully so we could adjust the policy to be more fair. We appreciate your support and assistance in truly helping us run an awesome campaign.
Right, so this is an interesting one, right? Because I personally there is a in what's the point of being angry with people for doing bad things if you kind of won't allow them to change their behavior, right? I definitely see that. However, people do need to suffer consequences for their actions. Because I feel there's definitely a culture, these days of kind of one strike and you're out, never forgive, cancel culture. I mean, well, cancel culture is usually to do with very serious things, but still, cancel culture as a whole kind of doesn't allow for the room for growth or improvement or forgiveness, and that's a problem.
Well, it reminds me of when I've been playing sort of in these very community-driven games. I'm specifically talking about X-Wing, but anything with sort of a big community game like that. Also Magic the Gathering, Warhammer, It reminds me of when you're in those groups, especially the online areas, how valuable, talented, and reasonable admins and moderators are. The people who put in work to diffuse situations, listen to everyone's perspective, offer some guidance, and just diffuse things without exacerbating hostilities. Those people are worth their weight in gold.
It's incredibly hard to do, and I couldn't.
It's so hard to do, and it's it's not just about right and wrong, but it's about encouraging people to it's about leaving people feeling good and also understanding where they made a mistake if they did so, so they can improve upon them. They can reflect on that and learn from it and grow from it, right? And so I think that's
better than just pure damnation.
That is I mean, I guess what I'm getting back around to here is that's a full-time job, and I think if you're the kind of company that really wants to run a successful Kickstarter campaign, you should have some people like that on your payroll who are helping your community, because if you're getting a lot of negative backlash, there's got to be a reason why, and the people who are making the people who are being entitled, who are demanding free stuff, who are giving unfair criticism, who are doing something that's, who are basically spreading shade that's unwarranted, I think that the communities of people in board games, they're fairly intelligent, and they're those people's perspectives, their comments will fall apart really quickly if they're moderated effectively. So, you know, I think that's better than a one strike and you're out. We're keeping your money. Like
But
that's
the
way
things are unrelated. You cannot keep someone's money because they make a comment you don't like about your campaign.
well,
The
yeah,
punishment doesn't fit the crime. But I was
mm,
talking about from the perspective of Starling Games punishment. Actually, that's what I was saying, that
mm,
I'm that as angry as that makes me, I feel that, I don't adhere to this idea that, one striking you out for the publisher. Insofar as angry as I am, I feel they should have the opportunity to right their wrongs. But by the same token, I feel they need to suffer consequences for such clear, um, what's even I don't know what the word is, evil doing.
yeah.
um, that would
Well,
actually
sort of.
that would make me avoid this campaign, maybe, and then give them another chance in the future in my attempt at being forgiving.
Well, I think in many ways, as people with a platform right here, we can do our part by highlighting this story. Um,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, maybe we need to do more research into it, I guess, because we haven't actually. Have you actually found their printing of the evil words?
I think
I've only
they've.
seen I've
Well,
only
I
seen
think
it
as
quoted.
part of their apology, they've changed it, right? Um,
Have they also reinstated the pledges of everyone or refunded? I doubt they want it back anymore. The people whose money they stole. 'Cause it's theft, man. That you cannot say we're going to assume your pledge is now a donation. That's actually theft.
well, this is the quagmire of Kickstarter, isn't it? Because the fulfillment of a Kickstarter pledge is a good faith agreement, not a contractual obligation, right?
However, I've no interest in discussing the law right now. I have an interest in discussing right from wrong,
Yeah, and
and that's
intent.
the
So as a moral argument, sure. And I think that it depends. It is. This comes back to the conversation we had last time we did this show about how the industry treats this as a shop,
yeah.
and that there's not enough distinction between, you know, people who are dreamers trying to fulfill a dream they couldn't do without the support of the community, and people who are essentially looking at creating pre-orders and benefit from Kickstarter advertising. Who are, and I think at this point, Starling Games is definitely in the early stages of the full board game publishing arena. They're not, they've got multiple games that have been published by several designers. They're not a mom and pop shop anymore, and
Yeah,
so they
and
need
they're
to.
not. They should have enough know-how not to make such a cretinous decision. How could they think that was going to be the right way? As Yogi Bear says, they could have or it implies they could have cancelled the pledge, refunded it, and said, "We don't want you to be a member of our community if you're going to bring toxicity to our comments." Right? That might be. I mean, that might not have been popular, but it certainly would have been a much more measured and defendable position.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, and the money's clearly not intended as a donation. So to keep it as, and to criticize the product or the campaign or the company, and to keep your pledge, so not to cancel your pledge, indicates that even though you're being critical, you still have an intention of buying the product, and that's again, the entirely the right of the consumer to do that. So, by saying, hey, you must behave yourself, consumer, even though you're buying our product, you must also behave in a way we endorse.
Mm-hmm.
That's taking away all the power and saying to the very nature of our capitalist situation here, whether or not you fundamentally agree with this, is that the morality of a company is ensured by the right of the consumer to take their business elsewhere. So taking away the right of the consumer to buy the product and support the company essentially removes the power the consumer has and removes any obligation on the part of the company to be moral or do good, you know? And that's the fundamental problem here. And yeah, they can't do it. It's not okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I would actually highly recommend boycotting this campaign. I mean, they're already pledged. They're already what 500%, 500% funded.
Yeah.
So it's possibly throwing a deck chair off the Titanic, but deeds not
Sam
words.
made a rude comment that
Vote with your
YouTube
pounds,
has
Sam.
YouTube has censored out. But the gist of it is that it's not too hard to boycott this game because it also doesn't look fun.
Yeah, Sam was very negative. Sam, I'm with you now, mate. I'm with you now.
So, I mean,
100%.
I also
Vote with your wallet.
what feels bad to me about the situation is that this is clearly a fault on the part of Starling Games and not James or Clarissa Wilson, and that's the sad fallout from a situation like this where a company does something wrong and the designers end up suffering. You know,
Sam's bullying me.
behave, Sam, or I'll take your money and I'll ban you.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, just to answer a question Sam asked earlier on, we got completely sidetracked by this this hashtag boycott Flourish. I think it was Sam asked if either of us would ever design a game. Where is that? He did say it somewhere, didn't he? Someone did. Someone asked that question.
It looks like
yes,
the
it was
update, Chris, is that they still require you to not behave like a jerk, but now they are saying that you can have a full refund.
Have they defined? Well, that's what they should in the first place. Have they defined jerk?
Let's see. We strictly adhere to the Kickstarter community guidelines. If you violate the community guidelines by being a jerk or spamming the campaign, so essentially they have provided a link to the community guidelines on Kickstarter. I've never looked at these because I just don't. But it does say here, if you're being a jerk, you will be refunded in accordance with our refund policy, whatever that is.
Well, at least that's. I feel that's within their rights. Then I guess they have the right to not serve you. I guess.
So
although that enters a whole new tricky area. A creator can always cancel your pledge. Yeah, okay,
Eggers,
fine, cool.
I appreciate your sentiment about backing the campaign and being a jerk to see how far you can push the envelope. But I don't encourage any kind of behavior that would involve being a jerk. There's already enough jerks in this world. Even to masquerade as one is probably unnecessary. But
Well,
I know they've lost.
I'm going to be frosty. I'll be frosty to Starling next time we talk to them at a convention.
Yeah.
I might just ask them, what the hell were you thinking? Who made this decision?
And to their credit, when I reached out to them about providing us with a review copy, they were very decent, which the other companies have not been. So, so it's
not really related.
No, but all I'm saying is that it's entirely possible for multiple people to work at a company and be multifaceted.
Yes. Absolutely.
But in this instance, yeah, we've got Don't Be a Jerk here on the Kickstarter thing, which says conversation is an essential part of our community. We encourage backers to talk to creators and to talk to each other, especially when they have questions. All we ask is that those conversations stay honest and considerate. Don't post obscene, hateful, or objectionable content. Don't post personal information. Don't post copyright content without permission. If you don't like a project, don't back it and simply move along. Please always have respect for our shared space and the other folks visiting it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same problem we always have with these things. Who defines hateful? But anyway, I think we can definitely conclude that Starling were wrong. They have fixed it, but that's the least one could expect from them.
Yeah, what they've done is they've brought it in line with more or less what it should have been in the first place, and you would imagine a company that has run at least 4 or 5 Kickstarter campaigns to know better than this.
And should they be praised for doing what they should in the first place? No. Not if the climate of the world was to be that way in the first place. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
okay.
This has got to be a thing, a known thing, What I'm saying is that I can't believe that this is happening now on Kickstarter 10. Like, you would expect them to know how to run these things, and I don't understand from their side what they were thinking that motivated them to do this.
Yeah,
That
I'd love to
baffles
find
me.
out.
Yeah.
We'll ask them next time we see them.
Yeah.
That's
In the
definitely
interests of
interests.
editorial respect, Starling Games, I know you're watching, send me a comment. I'm more than happy to read out anything that you want to send and credit you.
But I do stand by my obscene outburst.
So you won't be backing this then?
No, I won't be backing it. I think you have to vote with your wallet. You have to stand up against immoral actions where one can. So
Bernardo,
that's
we are reasonable consumers. We will give them an opportunity to make amends, but not on this campaign, I guess.
yeah, not on this campaign. I think I mean what I really want to do is just now write them off completely, but I know that's wrong. That would be that would be wrong, just like their initial actions were wrong. So, because if you don't give someone the ability to make amends for their past wrongs, then what's the point of holding them accountable for their actions in the first place?
Yeah, well, exactly right. That would be a
No
another
Christmas gift for my mum now.
another
No.
kind of intolerance.
I'm just gonna give my mum a piece of paper that says you were part of a moral ideological movement on Kickstarter.
Chris, you can get her arboretum. Trees are plants too.
I already have Kadama 3D, which I backed to give her at some point, so I'm covered. Because she likes building 3D things, and she likes Kodama. Before we move on, I very quickly address Sam's question because I still haven't managed to do it. I always would, I would love to design a board game one day. I have taken some steps into it in the past. I even got one to I even built a prototype of one at one point before realizing it wasn't very fun. It was okay. There was something potentially to work with, but I kind of I went to that phase of having too many ideas and wanting to put them all into one game. You know, where sometimes you need to be like, no, this doesn't work here. This can be for another game another day. So yeah, it's something I'd like to do one day and have taken early steps into, and hopefully we'll actually dedicate some proper time to some point in the not too distant future. And who knows, maybe I will actually get one out. What about you, Mike?
A fun fact: I've dabbled a lot in game design over my history as someone who dabbles a lot in many creative avenues. But I actually originally thought about setting up the channel as a sort of a board game let's play, and the idea was to design games as well as part of the sort of the content I created on the channel, and then it just kind of became. I do listen to Ludology podcast, Bernardo. I do. It's very good. If you don't listen to the Ludology board game design podcast, I recommend it. But Frostpunk incoming, yeah. But yeah, so basically, yeah, I would love to get back to designing some more, and maybe if the channel ever takes off to the point where I can work on it full time, I'll actually have time to go and explore some of those avenues again.
Yeah, time is definitely your biggest enemy right now. I recently had an idea of adapting an old, well-known card game into a thematic board game, expanding off of it. Because I thought that might, because it occurred to me it might be a bit. Do you know how someone's first trying to write fan fiction is often a good way to start writing. If someone's trying to paint, copying paintings is a good way to start painting. And I thought, oh well, you know what might help actually starting off of, a bit like Reckoners is based off of Yahtzee, right? I thought, oh, maybe it would help to actually have a foundation of a classic game and then expand upon that, which is a lot of games do.
Oh, yeah.
It's almost like a fan fiction of a version of board game design. Maybe that would finally funnel me into actually being able to complete a design.
Well, I remember because a long time ago, before I worked for the government in London, I was actually a TV writer. I wrote on some British soaps, and I remember they said, you have to write 10,000 or 1,000 scripts and have them all rejected before you can get one that anyone wants to read and is interested in. And they say the exact same thing about board game design. And, I think it's just true of the creative sort of endeavor, really, that you have to design 10 games and try to get something that's feasibly functioning, and they're all a bit different and a bit interesting. But don't spend too much time on them because those first 10 aren't going anywhere, Once you get to design number 11, you might start finally working on something that people are interested in, And
what was your proudest script then?
I wrote a lot of personal stuff that I was very, very pleased with, but I used to do some work in the writers' room on Hollyoaks, the soap opera, and I'm
Oh, so it's your fault.
probably most proud of that because I got paid for it. There's nothing quite as validating as having a creative output that people are willing to support financially, and so I mean I've taken a lot of it's meant so that's why it's meant so much to me to have this support on the Patreon this year, and people continuing to back that despite everything that's going on right now. It's incredibly humbling.
Do you make minis, Sam? Sorry to cut across that. Really, a
In other news, does someone make? Yeah, exactly. Now we have to have our first board game designed with tons of miniatures, so we can we can hire Sam to make them. Are you a sculptor, Sam? Let us know in the chat. But
I am with you, Mike. That having a creative outlet financially recognized is kind of very vindicating.
It's incredibly sort of satisfying thing, and just adding value and knowing that people recognize it. So you can work away in a vacuum and just be like, what is the point of this? Or rather, does this have any value to anyone beyond me? And I think in the end of the day, that's what creativity is, isn't it? It's sort of a recognition of our shared humanity and exploring different aspects of that together in a communal way. So,
sorry. It was just really bad timing that I saw that comment.
Hager says, Mike opens up. Chris, do you make minis?
Oh man, Mike's always trying to open up to me, and I'm always just shutting him down, saying, "Mike, I don't care about emotions. Emotions." And Selkith, I just want to say thank you very much for your absolute blind faith in me. But yeah.
Bernardo, is that a social deduction game? Bernardo's pitching us game ideas now. We should get this train back on track. So,
hey, we haven't lost any viewers whilst we took this segue. People were obviously enjoying it.
That's true.
But yeah, let's get to Cascadia is next, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, you recommended this one on the list. I know nothing about it, but I did look at the picture of all the tiles with animals on, and I had two reactions. My first reaction was, ooh, pretty. I like the art and I like the animals. My second reaction was, generally speaking, tile-laying games where you're all building your own thing are less interesting.
That's exactly what I thought. I added to the list before I looked at the game, looked at it and was like, no, moving on. It looks incredibly bland and generic.
Oh, no.
And I do not have any interest in backing it, I'm afraid. It is...
But Chris, it has Rado's seal of approval.
It does have Rado's seal of approval. Imagine... God, that's so weird, because he's really, really renowned for never having sponsored... Yeah, and not having any sponsored videos, and his opinions are always very much his.
Oh my god, I tried to be so positive, and then I immediately just threw fuel on the fire. I'm such a troll. Moving swiftly on. What's going on here? So we got some wildlife scoring cards. We got habitat tiles with little animal symbols on. We got lots and lots of little wooden wildlife tokens. Ooh, a little baggie for drawing tiles from, I suppose, and a score pad.
You're right. Difter's pointing out the lack of my cat in the stream. That's a good point. I haven't even seen him around the house. Where is he?
This would be somewhere. The diva cat and not the shy cat.
Yeah. The shy cat very occasionally jumps up, but it's super rare. It's usually if he's vomited a hairball or something, he's not feeling very well. He gets to go, oh, there's Skibble. Hey, Skim. You're going for food. Okay, ignore me.
So it looks like we are.
The cats are fine though, Difter. Thanks for asking.
Good.
They had their health checkup a few weeks ago. And they're all
Sam says, go get the cat.
There's a good chance he'll just wander up here soon. He jumps my keyboard while I'm playing Warzone a lot, which is really frustrating.
If you're watching this content retroactively and you would like us to stay more on track, please do join us live and then tell the chat to stop derailing this so successfully. So it looks like in this game we're going to create a marketplace of tiles and tokens. Then we're going to take turns drafting the tiles and the tokens and placing them in our tableau. And
do you draft
that's
the tokens?
All there is to it.
I thought the tokens came along with the tiles.
Yes, but not in the manner you would immediately think. I believe there's an element of randomization, so that the token is randomly assigned to a tile, and then you must find the tiles and get them with the tokens that you can place.
Sorry, I'm just reading the comments. I'm sorry. I'm just reading Selka's comment about my cat being a donation to Starling Games.
What if your cat backed the...
No, just they heard what I said and they now consider my cat a donation.
The Starling Games police are coming around to your house to collect all their donations.
Can you talk about cats for a bit? I can't tell. I really don't.
Chris,
Sam, more than anybody, I want to hear Sam's tone of voice as he says these things.
Oh my god. So what are these cards then? You score points for the wild... Okay, so then you're going to draft these objective cards, which are going to give you objectives to complete within your tableau. So you're building this tableau here by drafting the tiles and the tokens and ensuring you have places to put the tokens and the tiles, which I imagine will be sort of limited based on the different terrain types and things like that here. And then these cards here will unlock scoring methods for your tableau. Yeah, I mean, not...
The most interesting thing about this game is the fact that it's by the people who did Calico.
I don't know anything about Calico, Chris. What's that?
It's a cat-based game.
I mean,
it's a game about cats.
Well, Chris, go get it.
Which I don't have, and I never had, and I actually don't know a whole lot about. It's like a cross between Patchwork and the Isle of Cats. No, it's not really, not mechanically speaking, but it's about sewing a quilt. And cats come and cuddle up on the quilt. That's basically it.
That's all we know.
I started walking my cat. Sam really wants this stream to be about cats.
I'm not gonna stand for this derailment. Chris, a chap called Chris in chat has 3 cats.
I have 2 cats. My cats walk me. God.
Chris,
no one's listening to us talking
anymore.
You're
gonna have to stop looking at chat for a hot second.
That's really funny, though.
So this game is you can get a print and play for £4. You can get the Kickstarter edition for £23. So it is cheap, or $29. I don't know what shipping's like, but it's not an expensive game.
It's not, but it just doesn't look like it does anything remotely interesting. It hasn't got a single USP, right?
Yeah, I mean, aside from the pretty artwork, I'm not sure what...
shipping to the UK is $15. That's too much for what it is, isn't it? Yeah, that's too much.
Yeah, I mean, what are we getting here on the Kickstarter that we're not buying it in retail?
Nothing really, I don't think.
Thicker tiles.
But those will end up in the retail.
Yeah, it's not like I'm. I mean, the game's set in Canada, I think, which is appealing to me because I'm Canadian. But
you mentioned apart from the nice artwork, I don't even think the artwork's like anything to write home about. The animal artwork's actually quite nice. The cards are quite nice, but the tiles are whatever. Yeah, I'm afraid this is a kind of a. TBTF for me. Too bland, didn't finish. TBDF, too bland, didn't finish.
Yeah, generally speaking, I don't like tile placement games with it. I mean, basically also where's the player interaction, right? It's just a drafting, hey, you took the set I wanted.
I'm just watching, I think Sam's entered a stream of consciousness here to rival James Joyce.
Yeah, we've got James Joyce in the chat trying his best to derail us. All right. Well, while you interact with that, I'm going to go ahead and just move on to our next.
No, you don't interact with streams of consciousness. You just enjoy them.
Well, I'm not reading it out. Generally speaking, I'm very. I love that people join us in chat, but.
Like I said, we have still not lost any viewers since the conversation has turned to cats.
Well, they're probably all reading the chat. They've come here for Sam Wilson's novel. General musings of a YouTube live stream viewer.
What's this next one? In Too Deep. Oh, I did not look at this one at all.
In Too Deep.
I'm going to have to
reboot.
I'm going to have to listen to your your fascinating explanation.
So, from what I can tell about Into Deep, it's designed by Josh Chappell and Daryl Chow, both of whom are designers with published titles to their names, a reasonable number. It is being kickstarted by Burnt Island, who have kickstarted it before but cancelled it because their funding it did fund, but it didn't reach the level they wanted to unlock all their stretch goals. They've got Hall of the Mountain King and Endeavor to their name. Endeavor, I've heard many positive
Oh
things
yes,
about
Endeavor.
the solo experience of Endeavor, but I haven't played it myself, so I can't really say much more than that. In the Hall of the Mountain King, I've also not played. I've heard that it is okay, but again,
Yeah, the game appealed to me just because I like the piece of music in the whole game.
Sam stopped talking and we lost viewers. Thanks, Sam.
This is what's been this is getting exacerbated though because Deborah is just off camera playing with the cats now. So the cats are now chasing string around like 4 feet from me.
So here's what I can tell, right? This is set in the future, and we are futuristic cops in some kind of Matrix style or cyberpunk style situation where we can hack into the minds of criminals. Each game is a story deck of crimes that are going to take place, and based on how you progress through them, there are, I don't want to say branching paths, but slightly different crimes that will be shuffled into the sort of the deck. And from what I can tell, essentially, is that by being the criminals, which are these miniatures you can see here, are going to be moving around these locations here, and different players can take control of different criminals. It's not fully cooperative. It is competitive in the sense that we're essentially all trying to get something out of these crimes. This is where the theme kind of sort of went a bit awry for me, because it is competitive, but we are all cops trying to stop the crimes. But also we could stand to gain a lot of profit if we manipulate the criminals into getting us the outcome of the crime, right? Like we could ultimately wind up controlling them so much we get the stuff. So essentially, how it works is this: you're gonna choose which criminals you want to influence every round, and you can move them around and sort of work towards completing the crime or not. And then you're to progress through this story deck, and every time a crime is completed, you're going to pick the rewards you want from the crime. There are also these criteria that are going to determine whether or not the crime is successful or not. And if you pick the biggest rewards, you're going to take the most corruption. But other players don't know how much corruption you've got overall. But if the crime goes ahead and isn't foiled by the police, then you'll get slightly different rewards, and everyone will get all their rewards. If the crime is foiled, you might get less rewards, but then if you have the most corruption, you'll get nothing at all and you'll be severely punished. Yeah, the corruption mechanic is what I'm talking about here. It's definitely more complex than the notoriety and escape plan. It's sort of like a semi-cooperative competitive thing where you're trying to determine with the other police, who are all the players at the table, right? You're trying to determine with all the other players on the table whether or not we're going to thwart this crime or let this crime go ahead. You know, what reward cards they're going to take, how much reward they're going to get out of stuff. You know, there's a sort of hidden information and an element of reading the table, and then you can kind of guess what people are up to by looking at which criminals they're controlling and influencing on the board. And then they can take, the more they influence the same criminals, though, the more control they're going to have over those criminals and the more cool stuff they can do with them. And they're going to unlock those special criminal actions. Whereas if you keep swapping back and forth between different criminals on the board, you're going to have low levels of influence with each one, so you can't do as much cool stuff. But maybe there's less sort of information for other people to pick up on. I wish I'd sort of had more time with the rulebook, to be honest, because it was very intriguing.
Yeah. It doesn't appeal to me for some reason. I don't like the idea of we're trying to stop the criminals and but I'm trying to stop them better than you.
that was the one stumbling block I had as well. It's kind of like, you know, it's kind of like, are we all dirty cops on the take then, and we're just trying to straddle that line without becoming too dirty and getting caught? Is that what's going on? I
Yeah,
was.
sounds like it, and that's not a theme that appeals to me,
Mhm.
as you know. Are there any cats in the game? That's the question. Yeah, I don't know. I don't. No, it doesn't. I haven't read the rulebook for this one. I only had a quick look at the Kickstarter campaign for this one, um, but it definitely didn't grab my attention. And hearing you talk about it has not made me any more interested, I'm afraid, in getting to know about it.
Mhm.
I think I'm probably just going to write this one off based on what you've said.
Fair enough.
And it's
That's
definitely not the way. It's definitely not you, because you've also made me more intrigued in other games. So, yeah, I think that one's a write off for me. Would you? What about you? Would you lean towards backing it? Has it done enough to? How much is it? Like, has it done enough
well.
to intrigue you?
Generally
Thirsty.
speaking, like I am intrigued by it. I like the idea of the story decks, and I like the way I like the idea of the story decks changing based on the decisions the players made. There's also this idea that if you follow the sort of the corrupt path, then that's going to sort of influence where the story deck goes and the cards and sort of things like that. All of these things are interesting elements to me. I think I often find cyberpunk to be a difficult sell thematically for a board game for me, and that's because I think that it tends to be a very like abstract theme almost. I think,
Mm-hmm.
and so because sort of a cyberpunk world can be so many different things, I mean, generally people assume there's going to be some kind of hacking and cybernetics and things like that, but it's really very, very different. So thematically, it doesn't do a whole lot for me. I would have rather see something sort of closer to reality, something a bit more Minority Report than sort of
When you
full blown
first,
cyberpunk.
yeah, my first thought was Minority Report, and then that kind of started. We started being left behind a little bit. Started
So
going further away.
Spot in chat here seems to know something about the game, saying the main gameplay involves getting the criminals in certain positions with certain items. Yeah, so you're sort of trying to manipulate the board to unlock the story in the way that you want, and that's gonna give you the rewards on the story cards that you want, and certain sort of claims will have you gaining more corruption, and based on the way the story plays out, you may be punished for being corrupt, or you may get away with it. And I think part of it's going to be concealing that information from the other players and things like that. So I feel like there's an element, but again, like I said, it was sort of a bit difficult to get a real sense of the game from my brief overlook.
Well, I do like the idea of story cards. Definitely, I'm not sure I feel crazy about the merging of the theme and gameplay. From what I've heard.
Yeah, I think that I mean, if it was just like, I mean, the game makes this sort of point as well of saying you can be moral or you can be immoral, in the context of the game's events, right? So but I don't really. It feels to me a bit like, it's not really moral insofar as they've tied morals on to what essentially seems to be a risk bluffing thing, right? Like, do I want to bluff for and take a risk for big, like, go all or nothing, big benefits or big penalties, or do I want to play it safe and just sort of take the rewards that I can get my hands on more reliably without taking that risk, and then they've just kind of tied a morality into it for the sake of the theme, which is again obviously not a problem because that we explore themes in different ways in board games all the time, and this is just one way of
Yeah,
doing
board
that.
games are
But
not the realm to explore moral choice. I don't think.
well, I'll tell you,
Not with any sense of success.
a game that did it quite interestingly was The King's Dilemma, but
Yes,
this is
yeah,
not The King's Dilemma, right? It's I mean, The King's Dilemma does a good job as well because it's very close to reality. When you've got stuff like this that looks more removed from reality, it can have the adverse effect. It makes the morality feel less of a consideration, you know? And if the morality is not really a consideration, then it's just a light theming choice, which is, you know, fine, but it doesn't mean
But also
anything.
in a board game, your moral choices affect a spreadsheet. Whereas at least in a video game, it has, you know, your moral choices impacts something that's going to carry more emotional weight. That's what I mean by it. I'm not
Well,
saying board
but
games
yeah,
I'm not saying board games don't have a right to explore moral choice. I'm saying it just won't work in a way I'm going to care about.
well, exactly. Spot's saying in this game you will take the most corruption and you just don't want to have the most, right? And I'm looking at the thing that says this game is special. Your morality actually evolves. You start off with the best intentions, but your own corruption and that of your rivals will cloud your judgment. As other players lean towards the dark side, maybe you'll feel tempted too. Are you sure you want to foil the plot? And so this is kind of like, so it becomes this thing where basically the corruption is a measure of your investment, of whether or not you allow the crime to go ahead, or originally go with the idea of foiling it because you're a cop and that was the point. But it's not really a moral dilemma, it's just a game dilemma, right? It's kind of like, it reminds me of Quantitative Easing, QE the board game, which was a game about the 2008 financial crash. It's a bidding game for 3 or more players, where essentially you're doing auctions and you can bid as much money as you want. You just make up numbers. As long as they're real numbers, you can just make up any number you want. $200 billion, you know? It doesn't matter. That's the joke. It's a satirical game. But at the end of the game, the person who bet the most in total will just lose, even if they've got the most points, right? So you want to try and bet as much money as you can without going over what everyone else is prepared to bid. And then, of course, each auction has different elements making, and it's a really interesting, fun game. I really like it, but this is the same thing. It's just corruption, right, and moral. It's not like the King's Dilemma, where you're basically playing poker, but at the same time, it's presenting you with situations that are genuinely upsetting. You know, it says in that game, you know, this is a game where it's a serious moral game. We want you to have to decide between doing what's best for you in terms of game mechanics and doing what you feel okay about doing, you know? And you kind of have to, like, the King's Dilemma is, you know, it's straight up like, you know, this game can be very upsetting for people. Please keep that in mind. You know, so, and this is not that. You know, this is not that.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. I haven't played King's Dilemma yet, but I'm looking forward to playing it.
We filmed a series on it, and I've got it sitting there, ready to go on the channel.
Yeah, well, I won't be watching it until I've played my own.
Well, fortunately, we played through the demo scenario from Essen, so it's not any spoilers for the main game.
Yeah, but I have that as well. I'd like to play that. Is that the one? Is that the one? Is that the one you get with it at Essen? Was it?
I think, yeah, I think everyone got it at Essen.
Yeah. Well, In Too Deep is 1 to 4 players, and allegedly takes 90 minutes to play, and you have 18 days left to back it.
And it costs
It's not that expensive.
£39 or $65. Not that expensive.
Or 47 for the deluxe Kickstarter version, or Kickstarter version, yeah. So,
Not
if it sounded intriguing enough and you have money to burn, it's not that much of an investment.
exactly right. And one thing I did like about it was that they're the miniatures, and they come with these little bases, and then you can equip little bits of gear in their bases, and I thought that was very cute. Look at that.
No, that is
Person's
nice.
got a gun now.
Yeah, that's nice. I like that. That's cool.
But if the Sentinel miniature was in fact a Sentinel cat, that would be a vast improvement.
Definitely. Very true. Alright, what is Connect?
Well, this next one I saw just on a list of Kickstarters, and I really just wanted to mention it rather than offer too many thoughts on it, because
Yeah, because you only added this to the list like an hour ago or something, didn't you? I hadn't seen this
earlier
list
today.
until now.
So
Yeah.
it's a game called Votes for Women, and it's about the women's suffragette movement. And I had a brief glance over it. It's designed by a first-time designer called Tori Brown, who is actually a women's rights activist. And so this is, I think, rather more of a educational and historical experience, maybe, than a sort of a deep game designer game. But I had to look at the rules, and essentially it looks like a head-to-head sort of game. it actually reminded me a bit of Twilight Struggle in the sense that it's asymmetrical and you've got cards that you play out based on historical events. And
Yeah,
it's
in-depth history. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly right. And so I really just kind of wanted to highlight it as a sort of an interesting thing that people do with board games that's a bit outside of sort of the normal considerations we have for these kinds of things.
Am I the only person who thinks it's very funny that a woman named Tori has designed a game called Votes for Women? That's
Well, that is
amazing. But she's American, so she doesn't understand that's funny.
it is a UK joke, a UK based joke. Yeah. So this
You know
is
what's
about
funny?
the
I'd be
yeah.
interested in this game if it was about the suffragette movement in England. And I think, now correct me if I'm wrong, American viewers, but I think that the British suffragette movement is a lot more. There's a lot more there to be kind of dramatized and romanticized. It's a lot more interesting than the American suffragette movement. You know, you got Emily Davidson and I can't remember the name of the leader. What was the name of the leader of the woman?
Literally, don't ask me any questions about history. I'm absolutely appalling. My memory is game rules. I'm all over it. You know, who is our current prime minister?
Emily Pankhurst. Thank you, Deborah. Emily Pankhurst. So you got a lot more characters, right? You got a lot more, and Davison throwing herself in front of the house and the horse, and there's a great movie, which I've got the name of now. It was just called Suffragette. Might have just been called Suffragette. But yeah, I mean, this lady's obviously American. That's why she's made it about the American suffrage movement. Mm-hmm. But I would definitely be more interested if it was about the English movement.
For sure. Well, it's not super expensive. It's 39 quid or $50, and you can support someone who has a history of activism with this subject matter. And
yeah, definitely.
All your cards there as well. And someone, of course, has to play as those trying to prevent the passing of the 19th Amendment as well.
You cannot change the amendment. Yeah, you can. It's called an amendment.
Right.
Game over.
Game over. So that's one I just wanted to put in there for the sake of that. And now we've got someone in chat asked about Monsters on Board.
Yes.
Which I don't know anything about. So we're going to go on a journey of discovery together. A spooky dice drafting game with custom dice, 3D cardboard cards, and cars, and colorful monster minis.
So I think this is by the same guys who did Cavern Tavern, if I remember rightly. Is this Final Frontier? I feel like it is. Let me look at what else they did. I think they did Cavern Tavern, they did a Robin Hood game, and they did Rise of Nobility, I think it's called.
Yes, Rise
they did.
Nobility. I feel like, is that one I know? No, I don't.
I have it, but I never played it. I have Cavern Tavern, and I have played it a few times. I have Rise of Nobility, which I have not played. And I did not back subsequent games by them, simply because I had never gotten around to playing Rise of Nobility. Cavern Tavern I thought was okay. Not great. It was a dice worker placement game. Which kind of wasn't as thematically involved as it looked like it was going to be. Which kind of upset me. But it was an okay game. Okay. This looks like it's also dice worker placement. This is their thing.
So, it is a dice worker placement game. It's got little cars. Fear mobiles. Full of dice. It's very cute.
Yeah. It reminds me a lot of their previous one, as I said.
That certainly looks like a nice production. Alright, gameplay. Highly thematic dice drafting game. Monster lords are on the board and the fun begins. All aboard the Filmobile. Yeah. Cruise from player to player as lords. Okay, so you're dice drafting by pushing the cars around the table. That's fine. Monster grunts are unleashed to scare the folks of Startleton in search of spooky juice. What does that mean? Lords join the Order of Spiderjack to fulfill their prophecy. Feed Spiderjack and he will reward you if you summon him. I don't understand what any of this is.
No, it's not clear at all.
Arch monsters and ghosts are your allies. Visit them at the Spook Manor. Okay, so we can draft some cards that do things?
If it's anything like their last ones, it's a point salad-y style dice worker placement game. Where you roll the dice, you place the dice, and most things give you points.
Hey, Chris, look, Rado and Jen love it, though, so it must be good.
Oh, wow. Yay. Where's Rado's video? Let me see if it was sponsored.
So, yeah, I don't really understand what this game is from their Kickstarter page.
Monster on board.
But there are videos explaining the rules, so if this is a theme, if you like dice drafting...
Rado was paid to do his one, so that's about as useful as throwing a deck chair off the Titanic.
But was Jen paid because she also loves it?
Oh, wow, I hadn't thought of that.
Okay. Speaking of which, I have actually met Richard in real life, and he was a very, very nice man. So, I don't want to throw any shade on Richard.
I have made no reference to his character whatsoever.
Yes.
I am merely saying that paid promotion is as useful as a barbershop on the steps of the guillotine.
Well, I can't disagree with that.
Regardless of the creator behind the paid promotion.
Sam's like, next, get out of here, we're done with this. Anyway, 1 to 4 players, 30 to 60 minutes, reasonably light game.
I can recommend Final Frontier for good production value and perfectly solid games.
I did take a look at Coloma because it's based on a game I quite like from before. The designer's quite good as well, in my opinion. So I thought Coloma was produced to a very high quality, and they seem to deliver on time. I've never heard anything bad about them. So
we have nothing bad to say about them. I've backed 2 of their projects. They're on time. They were good quality. Just I've yet to play a game by them where it was like, oh yes, this. Triple L, you're absolutely right to give credit to him. Rado does always highlight. He doesn't hide the fact that they're paid promotions. He is very transparent about that. I just happen to believe that makes them totally worthless. Not the playthrough, I suppose. You can see the playthrough you can get something out of, but the final thoughts are completely worthless.
I like watching his playthroughs sometimes.
Yeah, I still watch them. I mentioned that I watched the Hamburg one, and what was the other one I said I watched recently? I watched 2 of our last Kickstarter. From the video Kickstarter games in our last video.
So we're on to someone's asking about the squeaking. Yeah, it's my computer mouse. It just started doing it earlier today, and I don't know why. Forgotten Depths co-op dungeon adventure, 1 to 3 players, 45 to 60 minutes. I really like this artwork. So we're delving through 3 ecologies to confront a malevolent force inside the dungeon.
I do like this artwork.
I mean, dungeon delving is no longer a theme that immediately grabs me. But
it's 1 to 3 players, and that's so weird.
To be fair,
Instaback. I was playing with 3 people earlier today. And I actually mentioned, it's so, we'll play 4-player games because we can't play that when we have 6 of us. But there's no such thing as a game just for 3. This will fill that niche.
It's 1 to 3, though, Chris. What you need is a game that's exclusively 3.
Yeah, I'm sure it exists.
Experience points are in scarce supply, though. You'll need to balance between saving them for abilities and spending them for the healing and keys you'll also need. Oh, okay, so it's very much dungeon delving, i.e. squabble over the rewards. Build
Thanks
the
for coming,
ecology
Yogi.
as you explore.
Appreciate your presence.
Hey,
Yogi's
thanks,
leaving us.
Yogi, for watching. And we'll see you on the next stream.
Sorry, I might cut you off, but I wanted Yogi to hear our farewell.
Cheers. choose when and where the monsters, features, and chests you've discovered. So we're sort of building a little path here. Do you know what this reminds me of? Is a game I used to play back in the olden days, which was competitive, so not cooperative, but called the Sorcerer's Cave of the Sorcerer, something like that.
I will look it up.
Can't spell sorcerer now. I'm going to out myself on YouTube. Sorcerer's Cave. The Sorcerer's Cave, 1978. Yeah, there you go. This old boy, wow. See, there you go, look at that. So you go adventuring through this cavern, and you have little encounters in each room.
Oh my goodness. That looks old.
It's very old, indeed. But just the tiles and the rooms and the dungeon delving element all kind of reminded me of that. But it's Sorcerer's Cave is competitive. Tales among your people. Talk about legendary weapons. Okay, so you can find legendary things within locations, which can you locate them and overcome the challenges. Boss battles. But how do we resolve these things? Or are we just flipping over cards all the time? Every monster is unique and themed to the ecology they're found in. Combat is resolved by strategically playing action cards against your enemies. So what, do they have like a behavior deck and you're blocking it?
Oh my god, there's mushroom people. They look ugly as hell.
I did not see them yet. Do you use that rare block to trigger your block activated ability? Do you go for direct damage? Well, best defense is good offense, right? Spend the power to fire off a potent spell.
Best defense is a good offense. That's someone who doesn't use the riot shield in Warzone. Nor do I anymore.
Obtain wondrous items only available through exploring. I don't really understand how this combat works, but it sounds like you've got some limited number of cards. Enemies are going to play cards against you, and you're going to... Maybe you play... I don't know. It doesn't say how we get...
It's a team of 3 women as well.
Huh.
So that's a nice follow-up to Votes for Women.
There you go. So you get... you can unlock cool loot.
I'm just watching the video here.
Which gives
So
you new abilities. I mean, I really like this artwork.
You have a unique character deck. That's how you fight.
Right.
And so you got tile. You're building the dungeon with tile laying, and you're. I mean, it's not that clear, but it's got nice artwork. It's £24, 1 to 3 players, 45 to 60 minutes, 24 days to go. Plenty of time to do a bit of research. I think it might be worth checking out a gameplay video.
Yeah, I would definitely look at this in more detail. There's a lot of keywords here that I like the sound of. Low downtime, puzzle solving, adventuring. Yeah.
If we do end up doing our next Kickstarter video a little bit sooner, this is 24 days to go. We'd be able to revisit this with time left, potentially.
Yep, 100%. It's not too dear either to get one copy of the game.
Yeah, exactly.
Is £24 or $30. Shipping is almost as much as the game, which is a shame. And there are estimates as well, so there's no guarantee that it's going to stay the same. But I would look into this further.
Yeah, no, I definitely will. Thank you for bringing it to my attention. I've forgotten who it was, but thank you very much for doing so.
Yeah, Cellcath, there we go. 3-player game. We're going to play War of the Ring, but with an added-on Carnomorph expansion.
Makes perfect sense.
All right, so that is our... I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll put a little remind me here on this...
Yeah, I did that.
This is my special Ready Steady Play YouTube account, which I don't use for anything other than this show. But
Kickstarter, yeah.
There you go. Now I'll get a reminder about this to remind me to talk about it next time. Okay, cool. What's next in the show notes?
So that's all the games that are currently on Kickstarter that we're going to look at. The next section is coming soon to Kickstarter, which is quite a big section actually in terms of number of games. Although we won't be talking about any of them for any real length of time at all, because we don't know anything about them really.
Well, yeah, that's true.
But there's a lot of games coming to Kickstarter in 2 days on September 22nd. Are you going to be bringing? Do you want to bring up images of these, or we're just going to?
I'm going to see if I can find any of them here in the upcoming. Okay, well, here's a big one. The Seventh Citadel is launching tomorrow. Sorry, that was just the first thing I saw come up here.
Yeah, that's cool.
It says notify me on launch, but what I actually have, let me see if I can bring it up, is a.
On BGG, they have some photos.
They have some photos. I've also got somewhere here a press release. Bear with me. Where did I put it? Oh, I definitely put it somewhere and then I've lost it. Oh, there it is. Copy link. Go! Okay, here's the press release. Tomorrow, the Seventh Citadel will launch. And it is a new adventure for 1 to 4 players. You play as a slave gardener. It's important to note that you are all slave gardeners. You have recently escaped from the citadel of the necro druid Nini Dazir. Together with your apostrophe. Nini Dazir apostrophe. Together with your fellowship, you will discover the original medieval fantasy world of the Collapsing Lands. As you explore this post-apocalyptic world, you will interact with its inhabitants and build your city in an effort to triumph over threat, which will come down on you after several scenarios and many hours of play. The Seventh Citadel is based on the original Choose Your Own Path game system, which is the same one they used for the Seventh Continent, in which players gradually unveil the game board using numbered cards which represent the terrain and events. Just like a video game, it features a quick save system, which will allow you to very quickly stop and resume the game. And this will run from tomorrow until October the 15th. There will be an exclusive Kickstarter exclusive collector's edition, including a exclusive expansion on the Edge of Peril. And I possibly just posted some information at the bottom of this video that I shouldn't have. I don't know. In any case, that is the Seventh Citadel.
So, yeah, this is definitely going to be back from me, unless it's like stupidly expensive. I mean, the first one was pretty expensive. But I've played all of the curses in the base game spot. Maybe not one of them. I think I've played all 4 of them. I've either played all 4 of them or I've played 3 of them. I've played quite a lot of Seventh Continent. I really enjoy it. And even though I have all the expansions, both the big one and the small ones to do, I'll still be getting this because I really enjoy the system, and I hope to get through the whole of Seventh Continent and this one day as well. I really love Seventh Continent enormously.
I have a lot. I have all of Seventh Continent, like every single part of it.
Yeah.
I don't think I've probably played it as much as Chris. I've played through several sessions of it. I actually haven't. I don't think I played the base game Curses a lot. I've played a bunch of the expansions, and I played the one that they recommend you start with.
There is one curse in the base game I would recommend not playing. It is really, really bad.
Well, which one's that?
I can't recall. I'll have to find out. It's mild spoilers for Seventh Continent, but it's essentially, the objective of it is essentially to grind and grind and grind and grind and grind. It is unbelievably tedious. I think the point of it, because you can play the curses individually or by themselves or in combos. The only purpose of it really I can see would be to play it in conjunction with other ones, and therefore the grinding will happen more naturally. You'll do it as you're doing other stuff, but I still don't see why that'd be fun. Because you either basically complete it by grinding by itself, or you accidentally complete it as you complete other stuff. So it's not a good one, in my opinion. But apart from that, I love Seventh Continent.
Yeah, I mean, I only really have one criticism of Seventh Continent, which is that it can suffer from that sort of very abrupt ending syndrome, you know? Like, we've been playing for 8 hours, and then suddenly we lose, and sometimes it can sort of, the loss can, sometimes, in fact, I would venture to say, fairly often, in my limited experience, the loss feels fair, and you're like, okay, well, yeah, I see how that's come to pass. But then, very occasionally, it's like, that came out of left field. It didn't feel fair. We've invested a lot of time in this game, and that kind of sucks.
The
But
What Goes Up Must Come Down expansion rulebook does have a mode, a alternative play mode where you can't die. You suffer penalties instead for dying. I never actually looked at the card, because I didn't want to spoil it. But I think I might have looked at. I looked at some. I didn't look at the whole system, but I looked at something. Basically, if you die instead, you draw a certain card, and I think you just get like minus points or something in the game. I'm not sure exactly how it works. But basically, you never have to reset.
Does it even have points?
No, it doesn't have points, does it? I don't know. It does something.
It's like, well, you've won, but you also died a bunch, so the...
Yeah, there's some impact, probably non-consequential, of failing. But you basically you'll be able to keep going. It won't make you reset if you don't want to.
Yeah, this game should be called Emancipation of the Necro Druids Indentured Gardeners.
But yes, I'll definitely be back in this. This is 100%.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll get involved with this as well. I don't have any kind of preview copy of this coming, which is a shame because I spoke to them at Essen about getting involved. So maybe I'll reach out to them again and see if I can get my hands on one. But I'm sure that they're probably all spoken for at this point. But it would be cool to check out. I kept meaning to play the Seventh Continent on the channel. And it's been reasonably popular amongst the Patreon votes, but it just never quite got up to the top. But I really like Seventh Continent, and I've enjoyed every playthrough I've had.
And it's a good solo game.
Yeah.
I imagine. I haven't actually played it solo, but it would be.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely does have that thing where you have to, like, remember where the hunting spots are and go back to hunt to survive. There's a strong survival element, which can, I suppose, feel repetitive. It's a fine line, I suppose, between sort of feeling important or desperate and feeling repetitive, but I mean, it's not. I was just going to say, it's not a game I play like all the time. It's a game that I play sometimes, and every time I get it out, I enjoy it. But also every time I play it, I'm sort of like, I'm good for the next wee while. But you know,
yeah,
I'll come back around to want to play it again for sure.
Definitely, yeah. No, I think I'm the same. I was just say I found the spot you mentioned where you landed with the penguins, and you definitely landed in completely the wrong spot.
Well, that was my very first playthrough, yeah. So no spoilers, but I was supposed to go somewhere, and I went completely off base. What's interesting is though that the actual Seventh Continent is a defined map as well. So
yes.
As you play more of the game, even when you're playing other curses, each curse just takes you to different parts of the map, so you'll come to recognize areas and things like that. So you've got to. But what I also like about the Seventh Continent is it uses the imagery on the cards very intelligently. So you can look for clues on the cards and look for information, and if you're not paying attention to what's detailed there, you'll miss things and go completely off track. And you'll have to sort of, like backtrack to retrace your steps and try and find what you've missed. Which is so there's this. I mean, the exploration theme is really, really strong. But it can lead to repetition of content.
Especially in later curses. In later curses, a huge element of looking at visual clues in the cards to work out where the hell you're going.
Yeah, and there's some cards have hidden information on them as well, but don't mistake that for what we're talking about. We're not talking about spotting the hidden information. We're just talking about sort of looking at the visual information and taking sort of direction from that.
Exactly.
All right, cool. So that's the Seventh Continent. We'll move on to this next one, I think, which is one from you, Chris, top of the list here.
Yep. Machina Arcana, which is actually an expansion that's coming out, but they're launching.
I see 2 here.
It would be neither of those. It's not up yet. It's up because it's up on 22nd. Remember?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if it'll be here on this list.
They have they have a Facebook page.
Right, there's a whole bunch of ones here.
And I'm not allowed to comment on the Facebook page anymore.
Uh-oh, what did you do?
because I asked them if the rulebook was going to be better this time,
And
and
I
they blocked
assume they
me.
said yes. They
No, they
blocked you.
blocked me. Yeah. So what actually happened is I've played this game, and it's fucking terrible.
Like the
It's
game.
well, the game's okay. It's a steampunk dungeon crawl, which is uninspired, and I wasn't particularly keen. It was meh. The rulebook is this wins my personal prize for the worst rulebook of all time, um, without question. The second edition's already been kickstarted. Um, so this is, but I don't think this is a third edition. I think this is just second edition reprint with an expansion. But yeah, so it was the second edition I played, and it still has the worst rulebook ever made, in the second edition. And I looked up on BGG, and there is a thread on BGG of the rulebook being criticized, and the designer chipped in there with this really really silly reply where he's basically trying to make a joke of it, but he doesn't seem to understand how tone works, and he's saying, oh yes, well, only celestial beings with an IQ of 1,000 could possibly understand the genius that is Machina Arcana. Like that's not verbatim, but that's not too far from exactly what he said. You can get it up if you like. Machina Arcana board game rulebook. And hang on, let's see if I can find it, because this would be.
So this is From Beyond Adrena? No, this can't be right.
What are you talking about?
I'm just looking for this latest campaign on Kickstarter.
I marked it a 1 on BG. I'd forgotten that. I've never had any trouble finding this thread before. Why can't I find it now?
Uh-oh, you've been banned, son. Well,
No, it's on the. Wait, look, it's on BG thread. The point is that the designer was very flippant in his remarks, and I left a comment on the Kickstarter page, not the Kickstarter page, the Facebook page, which just said, "Will the rule book be better this time?" That's all I said. And his response, and again, I got a response. I don't know if it was the designer again or who it was. Whoever's in charge of the Facebook page responded to me saying, "No, it's going to be even worse. And human minds will. I'm using my phone as a camera, so I can't read it. I sent you a screenshot, Mike, if you can find it. What they said. Back to my.
Just send that on WhatsApp.
Yeah, if you go into media on WhatsApp, it should be one of the more recent pictures I sent you. Above all the X-rated ones.
And all the pictures of your cats in sexy poses. Let's see if I can find it. In the meantime, so he wasn't very receptive of your.
No, he made the same, and I responded to him saying, "I remember you making a similar joke on last time this criticism was raised." And I said, I suggest you try to fix the issue rather than making these cretinous replies. And I was blocked. So if you ask them to do better, they will. Well, I don't know if I was blocked or not. I can still go to the page, but I don't seem to have the ability to comment on their thing anymore.
I don't know when you sent that to me, Chris. I can't seem to find it, but I mean, the thing is,
Always, Haggers, always.
The rule book is super important, and it's all very well and good to make light of a mistake, but you also need to show a willingness to take on board criticism and take any necessary action to address it if you find it to be legitimate, And sometimes, I understand from a creative perspective, hearing, when you get feedback on any kind of thing that you've produced, sorting out the legitimate criticism from the general comments can be a real challenge, but
I found the thing on BG.
You gotta show a willingness to. You've always got to show willingness to take it on board, and if it's a comment being echoed by a lot of people, that tends to give it legitimacy. So
on BG, the opening the guy says, I'm enjoying reading. I enjoy reading rule books and learning new games, from simple stuff to in-depth rule books like TI or Game of Thrones. This rule book seems utterly abysmal. I thought Game of Thrones was bad for C page X, C page Y, but this is something else. How can it be formatted in such a way for this? How can it be formatted in such a way for the second edition? Straight to the file section for cheat sheets, methinks. And the designer replied, "To be fair, you have to have a very high IQ to understand the Machina Arcana manual. The laid knowledge is extremely subtle, and without a solid grasp of game theory, most of the paragraphs will go over a typical reader's head." Like, he keeps going. "The fans understand this stuff. They have the intellectual capacity to truly appreciate the depths of these concepts, to realize that they're not just true, they say something deep about life. As a consequence, people who dislike Machina Arcana as a consequence, wait for it, people who dislike Machina Arcana manual truly are idiots. Of course they wouldn't appreciate, for instance, the complexity of hundreds of scattered links throughout the manual, which itself is a cryptic reference to Lovecraft's existential dread. I'm smirking right now, just imagining one of those addle-patted simpletons, I don't know what that word means, addle-patted simpletons, scratching their heads in confusion at a Dreamer Games genius wit, as a Dreamer Games genius wit unfolds itself on their gaming table. What fools, how I pity them. And yes, by the way, I do have a Machina Arcana tattoo, and no, you cannot see it. It's for the ladies' eyes only, ladies incorrectly apostrophized. And even then, they have to demonstrate that they're within 5 IQ points of my own, preferably lower. So he's misogynistic as well beforehand. Nothing personal, kid.
A real person wrote this?
The designer of the fucking game wrote this.
I mean, that feels like that comment was written about a caricature of a person.
I mean, it's not meant to be serious. He is joking, I assume. But it's still not
but
acceptable.
there's a level of, but I feel like there's a it
yes,
feels
Sam.
a little.
I think he's trying to be funny, Sam. Sorry, Mike. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think he's trying to be funny, Sam, too. But I also think he's doing it with a startling amount of, or starting lack of self-awareness.
Yeah.
You know, that's
I never noticed before the fact that he says he wants women to have a lower IQ than him in his joke. Really progressing the hobby there, mate. I can see how the post was supposed to be funny, but I'm cringing here. Ladies' eyes only is unnecessary, creepy add-on. Yeah, I agree, mate. It's and so when I was hoping Mike could get at my comment verbatim. But it was I said, well, yes, like I said, will the rulebook be better this time? He said no, it'll be even worse. Something along the lines of mortals will tremble at the intellectual complexities, or something like that. It was very, you get the gist from this one. It was a very similar reply to this, and I called him out saying, I remember you doing this last time you were criticized on it. You do better to address the shortcomings of your game and stop making these cretinous replies. And I assume the word cretinous was what was objected to, but cretinous means stupid. That's what it means. Synonymous with foolish. I mean, it's synonymous with the word foolish. If you look it up in a thesaurus, which I did, yeah. So I do. I don't think it was. I think that is a cretinous reply. I truly do. I stand by that.
It's not a reply that is gonna, endear you with anyone.
Yeah.
Sam says you can't be funny on the computer. I don't think that's necessarily 100% true, but anyway, I'm not.
But I know what he's saying. Yeah,
I know what you're trying to say. Yeah, a lot can be lost in translation. Yeah. I'm looking at this rulebook now and I hate it. I don't want to learn this game. This seems like a nightmare.
I learned that game. Me and Richard learned that game one evening in Dublin, or not Dublin, Meath, where he lives, and it was hell. We actually did manage to play the entire game to completion until we died.
Literally every paragraph has an italicized brackets that says, see exit token, page 21. See attack, page 15. See trigger traps, page 17. I'm like, how is it? This is just, I don't want to learn this game. I don't want to buy this product. I don't want to learn this game. I'm out. And, that's the problem with a bad rule book. Because, I might you're going to be deprived of my custom, and I might be deprived of an enjoyable experience, and potentially sharing a good product with people, because this is impenetrable and too much work. And good rule books are super, super important. And if you want to make a jokey rule book that challenges people's intellect and, is part of some, homage to the, Cthulian texts of the old gods, then by all means write that rule book. I'm not saying don't make it available. I'm just saying also make a serious good rule book available.
I don't see a single cat in the whole rule book. I agree, Spot.
Another major flaw. Lack
But
of
yeah,
cats.
so I have had a very short personal exchange on Facebook with who I assume is the designer, considering he made the same type of response, or maybe that's just their party line. But yeah, I hate these guys, and I will never back something by them. It's just, and bear in mind, I have actually played the game, and I learned that rule, and I taught it that game, and I taught it to Richard because he didn't want to read it, and it's not a particularly good game, and it's the worst rule book ever written, and the designer is clearly a unpleasant individual online. I think that's the most diplomatic way of putting it, with all the evidence we have. Maybe he's a lovely person, but online, the persona he projects himself online is of a rather nasty person.
All of that aside, there's this space of, dungeon crawling, whatever you want to call it, type of games. It's a crowded space, and there's a lot of products now in this area, and a Cthulhu-esque one is hardly a unique theme either. So you really have to do a lot of work to stand out and justify the existence of your product, And I don't think that this is this is such a competitive space with so many games in this arena that I haven't had a chance to look at. If you tell me the rule book is bad, I'm not going to check it out. If someone's like, I love this game, let me teach it to you, the rule book's horrible, but once you learn it, it's worth it, then I'll be like, okay, maybe I'm going to make the effort here, But even if someone said you really need to check this game out, it's great, but the rule book's a slog, I'd still probably be like, I'm going to wait and find someone to teach me,
Yeah, I mean, Chris says, but the game is actually not bad, just the rule book. But also, not bad that's not exactly a glowing recommendation of the game either. That's also I would describe the game as, having played it. Not bad. It's whatever. It's fine. And the experience was somewhat spoiled by having to constantly check up rules.
Yeah. Do you know what's sticking at the back of my head? A game that I was sort of always intrigued by, which we played on the channel actually, was Hellboy the board game.
Oh yeah.
I complained actually a lot in the final thoughts of that about the fact that it overwhelmed me with sort of setups, and I didn't know how to curate the game effectively, and so I wasn't really sure how to have a good experience with it. But mechanically, I always found it very intriguing, and I think actually if you just had the retail version that didn't come with all the Kickstarter stuff, you could probably have a better experience out of the box, although I found it to be very difficult. I might just be bad at it though. But anyway, I would probably much rather look at that.
Yeah.
Again.
I think I would too.
Or go out and have a look at that. And it's, I don't know, this is obviously a some kind of really horror theme, but there's also, what's that other one? The one that's at the bottom of the submarine that people keep telling me to check out. I feel like it's called Madness, something Madness. Deep Madness? Is that a game?
I believe Deep Madness is the name of the game. I don't know if it's...
I think I've had a lot of people telling me to check out Deep Madness.
Yeah,
and it
Deep
looks
Madness.
very similar.
Oh, yes.
Like a Cthulhu-esque sort of miniature thing with horror and, I mean, this game looks so similar, in terms of its artwork and its horror style and Cthulhu inspired. I think this is at the bottom of the ocean or something in some kind of, deep underwater thing. It's got miniatures instead of more traditional, instead of the standees, and it's I guess it's sort of sci-fi esque instead of no sort of old detective stuff, but
yeah, I mean, bottom of the detective stuff.
sorry, like 1920s detective stuff. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if the rule book for this is any good either, but I also know that
It definitely appeals to me more, Deep Madness, than the steampunk stuff. I like steampunk, but I also like bottom of the ocean horrors.
yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, I'm sort of flexible on theme. What I'm not flexible on is accessible gameplay and decent gameplay, and you know, if the people aren't, if they're not taking on board the criticism, the rule book's not going to get any better, you know. Whereas at least if they were like, hey, yeah, we know it's bad, we're writing another edition, and you know,
And it didn't get any better because that was the second edition rulebook he was complaining about. I actually have never looked at the forums of the first edition. Maybe they also got complaints. I assume they did.
Beppe says Deep Madness is just a harder version of Zombicide with a different theme and a much longer
Yeah.
setup.
I don't like Zombicide very much, so not for me. Thank you for saving me money.
Okay with Zombicide, but it's not one that I get out to the table typically.
Right, shall we move on to happier things?
Or play the excellent Cthulhu Death May Die, Chris's favorite game of 2019.
As recommended by by me.
What's the next one? Oh,
That's
this
the hill.
is fun.
That's the hill I'm going to die on. Cthulhu Death May Die is not as good as everyone else says.
Villages is not as good as everyone else says.
Yeah, I'm going to defiantly take the position that Village is the best game ever, just to
continue
just for some
our wonderfully consistent vital thoughts. All right, I'm just Googling this to see what comes up because I guess we haven't.
If you go to the Facebook page of it, and they have some pictures now.
Oh, they have some pictures on the Facebook page. They don't have a preview on Kickstarter then.
Did you go to the Facebook page? They have some of the minis are available. So the some of the minis are available to see now. The minis don't look like, unless they're just placeholder minis. The minis don't look like they're actually like remotely the focus of it. Like the minis are just pretty standard looking. I know that they've advertised somewhere on that Facebook page that I'm happy about this. The Kickstarter reward is an exclusive Lord Flash Pig or Flash Hog.
Yeah, got him up here. Lord
There
Flash
he is.
Hog.
Is he Flash Hog? So that is, for anyone who doesn't know, Rick Mile narrated the video game, and he also famously played the Commander Lord Flashheart in the Blackadder series. So they have immortalized the wonderful Rick Mile in this miniature as a Kickstarter exclusive to pay homage to the fact that he contributed his voice to the video game, which I'm very pleased about.
I love that. This pig doesn't look like it captures his insanity, though.
Well, it looks like Lord Flashheart a little bit from Blackadder.
But Rick Mile had one of those faces, like
he did,
crazy face.
And voices.
Yeah.
He was wonderful, and I'm really pleased that. I think it's a nice homage.
He's in the young ones as well, isn't he?
Yeah, I never really liked the young ones though.
I think that was my first experience of Rick Mile.
Yeah, just wasn't that. No, it wasn't him. Just the show wasn't for me for whatever reason. But yeah, so that's a nice little bonus if you were to back this game.
Very limited number of pictures here about what's going on, but we do have this one picture of the game, so I'll leave that up.
Yeah, so we still don't know anything about it, except that it looks like a tactical miniatures game based on the Hogs of War universe.
Looks like it's got 4 players. We've got unit cards. We've got little bases here, it seems.
There's player screens. Yeah. There's some sort of some secret information, very least.
Yeah. But that's all I can tell. And there's obviously a hexagon-based movement and text. Looks kind of like a 4-player version of Memoir 44 to me. Just from this angle.
It does look like that, doesn't it? I mean, they're claiming it's like a bit like Warhammer and X-Wing Light.
I mean, the board does look like it looks a bit more like Wings of War than X-Wing, because X-Wing never had. I mean, one of the big things about X-Wing was that you didn't have hexes.
Yeah.
You know, it just you just moved along the templates. Whereas, I mean, that's also true of Wings of War, though. So you
Well,
accept
it's a lot. Most miniatures games don't use. Most tabletop miniatures games
hex-based
don't
movement. Yeah,
use. Yeah.
actually, yeah, that's fairly true. But yeah, you know, you had yeah. So I mean, I don't know how they're going to do that, but so I'm surprised to see hexes.
It looks like it might be good though. I'm definitely going to check out the Kickstarter. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll have a look at the. Well, this is launching on Tuesday,
Mm-hmm.
which
What else is
is
launching on Tuesday?
the 22nd. Oh my God, Dinosaur World.
Oh my god! I know nothing about this because there's basically no information about it, but they say it's going to be similar in mechanics to Dinosaur Island, but with expanded gameplay. So it's not a second edition, it's not a redo, it is a new game, but it's using a lot of the core mechanics of Dinosaur Island. That's basically all I know. If you like Dinosaur Island, it sounds like this is going to be a kind of a bigger, better, more gamery game of it. If you didn't like Dinosaur Island, I don't think you're going to like this.
Is it the same designer?
I believe it is the same designers, or are the same designers.
It is.
Yep.
At least one of them is the same.
You have these hex building spaces now as well, and I don't know. Like I said, they haven't revealed much information on it. They've said as much, but they're going to be revealing more information soon because it's going to be kickstarting soon.
Tuesday. All of these so far that we've covered are launching on Tuesday. There's actually only one we've got here to cover that's not launching on Tuesday, and that's because it's launching tomorrow.
Yeah. Someone asked, "Is it a second edition or a brand new game?" And Brian Lewis from the I think it's one of the designers actually. He said, while some of the mechanics will seem familiar, for example, grabbing DNA, making dinosaurs, the rest of the game is different. We'll have more information over the coming weeks. So yeah. I played Dinosaur Island once only, and I liked it just fine, but I haven't gone back to it. I still have it on my shelf, I think it's in my kitchen cupboard now. My special kitchen cupboard for board games. I'd like to play. We kept saying we should play on the channel, we just never got around to it.
Yeah, that was one that I wanted to do it on the channel, and I don't know why we just never got around to it.
Well, maybe we still can at some point in the future and compare the two. We'll see.
We've got
what else?
Where's the list? So I'm going to skip over the next one for hot minute, Chris, and we're going to go straight to this one.
Ooh, what are we skipping over?
This is the latest from Sandy Peterson, who you probably know as the creator of Cthulhu Wars and Glorantha the Gods War and High Cultist, I think it was called. Anyway, he's come and the one I'm really excited about. Oh, the space one. How have I forgotten the name of it? Gosh darn it. Hyperspace. Anyway, he did a game called Planet Apocalypse. I don't really know enough about it. This is not what I'm thinking of. But I went to look into the first edition actually ahead of this, and there it is. He did this one, which I'm super excited about. It's basically giant miniatures cosmic encounter. From what I can tell. But this is the sequel to his Planet Apocalypse game. I think it's more of the same kind of thing. I don't know. We'll have to discover tomorrow. But that's on the radar.
On the radar. Hopefully we'll be able to check it out properly in the next Kickstarter show.
Well, Sandy Peterson is the kind of person who creates games that look incredibly sort of intimidating or complex, but actually rules-wise they're fairly light and sort of goofy and fun. So, like, for example, Cthulhu Wars, the massive Kickstarter that costs a ton of money, plays in like an hour, couple hours, and it's very rules light. So, I think that I always find his projects interesting. I didn't really look at Planet Apocalypse at the time, and I think that's partly because I was just busy, so I'm quite interested to check out this one now that it's having a second go around and see.
Yeah, it is
See
very
what
hard for us to keep an eye on everything all the time.
Beppe
Um,
asks if we've looked at Monsters on Board. Well, that only came up during the stream, so we had a cursory glance at it, but nothing in depth, I'm afraid, Beppe. We reviewed the Kickstarter page as, other than the dice drafting, I can't really tell what's going on with this Kickstarter from this page. So,
yes, we had nothing very insightful to say because we hadn't researched it prior to the video.
yeah, I'm afraid so, and the page was not particularly enlightening. I like the little cars that carry the dice around the table, although it seems, well, yeah.
And I have enjoyed Final Frontier's previous dice worker placement games, so yeah, that's all we can really say on it. What's this one here? I see. Dutty.
I don't know if there's a official Kickstarter page up that I can find. Here's
Well, this
a
is also
Dicebreaker
coming
article.
on September 22nd. On Tuesday, this is also launching. Oh no, is this one tomorrow?
This is
this one. No, it's
Tuesday.
22nd. 22nd as well. Tuesday is a busy day. I know nothing about this whatsoever. I'm not particularly knowledgeable of the IP either. I mean, I know the film, the remake, the one that everyone thinks is the original, but it's not.
Yeah, well, the original was The Thing from Another World, right?
Yeah, the original is like black and white.
Yeah, The Thing from Another Planet, The Thing from Another World.
I can never remember. Yeah, that's the original. Yeah, but a lot of people think that the
John Carpenter one's the original.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're both based on the same story, short story, but the John Carpenter one, I mean, they're slightly different takes on it, really.
Yeah.
So let's have a look. So this is coming to Kickstarter on Tuesday as well, from Pendragon Studios, who seem to have published a bunch of stuff I thought was published by other people. I think, are they publishing Portal games in English or something? I don't know. Designers are Giuseppe Cicero, who has no credits, and Andrea Crespi, who has done Potion Explosion, Alone, 1969, and Apollo 13. So, I mean, Alone was a game Chris and I looked at. Wasn't there already the Thing board game? Yes, there was. There was
There was. Yeah.
one that was very closely inspired by the Thing, and then there was one which was called Not Alone. No, not. I'm thinking
Not Alone is nothing to do with.
Yeah, no, that's something else entirely. Ignore that. But then there was also an actual The Thing board game as well.
There's a Thing card game which is like a social deduction game, which I didn't really think much of. I played it once or twice.
God, I played this one with Ben, and I'm trying to remember what it was called. So there was the other, The Thing, Infectionate Outpost 31 is the sort of other official sort of The Thing board game. But there was another one, which, Who Goes There? Who Goes There was the other one, which is a sort of social deduction game, and it is, for all intents and purposes, The Thing. It's the same kind of thing, but, it's IP distinct. 4 to 8 players. I hadn't noticed that. For the official The Thing board game.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Here's a screenshot. What does it look like? So this is clearly the John Carpenter movie. Here we've got the layout of the facility. There's the dogs that are fine and safe and happy. I don't really know what's going on here. There's a suspect level. So there's clearly an element of
It's obviously a hidden role social deduction kind of thing, right? But like Battlestar Galactica or something. Who is
Yeah, who's got the virus?
That sounds really good to me. That's exactly my type of game. I love that. I love those types of games. I'll definitely have to check that out. The IP isn't something that particularly appeals to me, but it's also not something that turns me off. So if it does the whole betrayal and secret role thing well, I will be totally down for it.
It says here in the trailer they describe the game. So by all means, do check out the trailer for that. Well, and it's launching on Kickstarter on Tuesday. There you
Yes,
go.
but I mean, these games usually don't work very well if they haven't, if you don't have, good, decent player count.
So the other thing I just spotted was the Frostpunk. When does that launch? We talked a bit about that, I think, in the last video.
We did, yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't say here anything about when it's launching, though.
I think it's still just kind of coming soon.
Yeah, I didn't think there'd be an update. I don't think there was an update there.
No, we'll check it out when
Chris says
October. Okay.
Our
Well, in that
super
case,
reliable source.
I think we only have one more thing to talk about, don't we, Mike?
I'm looking for. Is there a better link than what I've already seen?
I found it by googling it. Would you like me to send you a link?
Yes, please.
Here you go.
All right, here we go. Ah! Oh my God! Yeah, this is what I've already seen. Is there more? Is there more?
No, that's it. That's it. Sorry, I thought you were just asking for. I thought you were just trying to keep the suspense going.
I was trying to build suspense, but also I was hoping there'd be more. This is all I've seen.
That's
yeah.
it. That's all there is.
We don't know. We don't know anything more than this. Yeah, there's a lot of wild speculation about this online and what this is, but at the moment, I don't think we've got anything official. There's all these rumors and Restoration Games were talking about wanting to do a reprint of this and all kinds of stuff, and people are talking about the SRB rating, meaning that it's a video game. But in terms of cold hard facts with citable sources, we got nothing.
Nothing. There is a video from the Bard with making predictions and speculation, which is a very enjoyable watch for anyone who knows why Hero Quest is so great.
It's the tiny furniture.
No, that's not true. The best thing is ignoring the roll to move rule.
It says Frostpunk launches 6th October. Thanks, Chris. So yeah, we're very intrigued to see what's going to come of this, or what this could be. And that, of course, is also opening on Tuesday the 22nd of September. So Tuesday's a big day.
Is it launching that day, or is that they're going to reveal this and it will launch in the future? Is it a game? We don't know. I hope it is. I hope it's a remake. Without the roll to move. I hope it's a remake that's going to make Hero Quest the game that I remember it being when I was 10.
If this is Sam says it looks like it's a mobile game graphic. Well, if this is just a mobile game, this is a lot of work to generate hype for a mobile game release, I think.
Yeah, there's a lot of people saying no, it's definitely not a remake of the board game. It's definitely something simpler. And I'm in the same camp as you, Mike. I think this is a hell of a thing to do. If it's anything, if the reveal is anything but a new version of the game, or remake or reprint or something like that, then it's going to be disappointing. So the hype's going to backfire.
Yeah, 100%.
Alter Quest. I have heard of that. I actually looked it up recently.
Yeah, Alter Quest is a dungeon crawler by the Saddlers, who are the minds behind Street Masters and Brook City. I liked Street Masters a lot. I wasn't particularly bothered by Brook City. I would like to play Alter Quest, but I didn't actually back it, so I don't know if I'll get to. So that's my summary on Alter Quest. In the meantime, we can watch this Hero Quest clock ticking down, waiting for the big reveal. We've just got a few little bits here to talk about, Chris, but I think we're also running long, so I don't know if you want to do a quick... That's the end of our coming soon to Kickstarter, sort of very soon. So...
and obviously the most important thing is that Hero Quest might be coming back.
Yeah, and seeing as we've got a bunch...
Nothing else matters.
Nothing else matters. But maybe we'll try and do another one of these in sort of something like 18 days or so we fall within the ending of some of these shorter ones. we'll see what the times look like on these Kickstarters, so we can revisit them ideally before they all end and everyone misses out.
Yeah.
We just made a few other notes here. Something we've backed that's arriving soon that we're really excited about. You have got some mentions here.
Yeah, I put down Super Fantasy Brawl, which is just shipped, I think, or it's about to ship. So it should be coming hopefully next month, I think. People may remember we played, myself, Mike, and Ollie played a few games of it on the channel. I absolutely adore this. And I'm so very excited for it. It's just incredibly fun, one-on-one dueling game. Well, 3-on-3, I guess, but you control one person controls 3 characters. I'm super excited. I'm really hoping to get very much stuck into it, like to really get an in-depth knowledge of the characters and get very competitive at it, and maybe even go to tournaments if they run them, because I really loved it, like more than words can say.
Well, that's a resounding endorsement.
And the other thing I mentioned was, sorry.
So that's Super Fantasy Brawl there. I think that's Chris's food arriving, so we might have to wrap up this stream so Chris can go and get his food.
That is true. It is true. But yeah, that's the thing I'm most looking forward to.
So that's Super Fantasy Brawl. That is Mythic Games, and you know it's very simple. It's not sort of in line with their other previous ones, like, you know, Joan of Arc or the other one we were talking about, the Reich Busters. I mean, Reich Busters is hardly super complicated, but this is much more of a different thing. It's not it's a head-to-head like skirmish game, where each player has 3 heroes and they battle it out in an arena. And actually in terms of design, it reminded me quite a lot of sort of like Rhino Nizia, sort of like it's just sort of like really tight and basic thing. I really liked it too, and I'm excited for my copy to arrive. Although I gotta make sure I get some games in before I have to play Chris again.
You have to excuse me for 1 minute while I answer the door.
Well, why don't we wrap up the stream here, Chris? Because I don't think we've got anything else particularly to cover, have we? Nothing.
No, actually, I don't think so. It was no, not really. Cool.
So we were just going to mention that Kanban EV is coming as well.
Yeah.
But I think we will say sayonara for the day. And if you guys like this kind of stream and you like this content, leave a like on the video, please, and leave a comment down below with games you want us to cover in a future video. And we'll probably be back in 3 or so weeks to catch up with the next things. Chris, what are you having for dinner?
I don't know. Deborah ordered it.
Ooh, surprise dinner. Sounds exciting. You never did a Street Masters video. What? Chris, I actually filmed a Street Masters video and then for technical reasons couldn't air it. And I made it with Ben's copy of the game, which I no longer have access to. So I'll just have to email the Sadlers and ask them for review copies, and they can ignore it just like everyone else ignores my emails.
I don't ignore you, Mike. If I make a game,
Chris.
I'll give you a review copy.
I appreciate that, Chris. But if you want me to review a game that I don't have, then by all means feel free to email people on my behalf. I don't think I should probably be eliciting that. Oh, Chris is gone. So that's the end of that. We will be back in the future. See you soon, everyone, and thanks so much for watching, and thanks to all the patrons who support the show. Without you guys, this wouldn't be happening. So thank you. Bye.